Hello, and welcome back to another episode of We Bought a Mic, a podcast about the best movies of 2024. It's 2025. It's Listomania time. It's how we kick off the new year with our favorite albums, movies, and TV shows of the previous year. Today we're doing part 2 of our top favorite cinematic films of the year 2024. We did part 1, 6 through 10, separate episode. Listen to that. Now we're doing part 2. It's 5 through 1.
Getting deeper into the sake.
Oh yeah, we shout out to Harry, Japan trip.
This is very good sake.
It's amazing.
It's like
very, very good.
A lot of sake to me tastes like meaty. Like,
this is
like
so
meat.
smooth.
Yeah,
It tastes like ham almost. Ooh. Like sake is very like hearty.
Welcome. My name's Ernest.
I'm just Hunter. I'm part 2 Hunter.
I'm Nosferatu.
Beautiful.
That's good.
And what is your number 5?
Oh, we just okay.
Oh, we're just I think that's over.
We need to keep it pushing forward. I do have to work in the morning.
My number 5 is, I couldn't deny it, it's The Wild Robot.
Let's go. Let's fucking go. This was my single hardest cut for my top 10. Let's fucking go.
This is a big shocker. I did not expect this.
It's one of the best animated movies I've seen in years. It walked up to, like, in the lunchroom to Inside Out 2 and fucking smashed his tray into the fucking ground. It said,
yikes.
It said, listen, bro. Inside Out, like, I enjoyed Inside Out 2. It doesn't hold a candle to Inside Out 1, in my opinion.
It's kind of the same movie again.
Well, it's also just watching this movie, like, my God, like, it's like ingenuity, creativity. You know what I mean? Like, it really, honestly, missing from Inside Out 2 all over this movie. It's like, on top of all that, obviously, it heart-wrenching story. Like, it goes places you do not expect. I think the place to start with it is like where the movie starts in terms of what you're noticing, which is that it's very visually inventive. The simple stuff that, like, you know, the original animation studios used to do really right, which is like, if a character is moving from one place to another, let's do it in interesting ways. You know what I mean? Let's find like creative things to, you know, like obstacles for them to run into, movements. There are 1 billion movement gags in this movie, especially the entire first act. Anytime something is in motion, it's worth watching because you're like, oh, wow. Obviously we're working with like a really, you know, dynamic robot character. So that helps a lot because you it's like elastic. You can play with the way that it moves.
I think to that point, this is like, I honestly think it like rivals Across the Spider-Verse for just like one of the most like stupid, beautiful animation. Like I've never seen animation portrayed like that ways that I can remember.
Yeah. So Spider-Verse definitely pops up when you're talking about the animation. But
also it's not as like schizophrenic.
Well, that's the thing. It's not the piece of the Spider-Verse movies where they change styles like halfway through. That's not here, but it's the idea of, I try to write it down because it's a weird thought, but it's capturing an aesthetic without needing it to be as high res or as detailed as possible. Like it's like
DreamWorks did this with the Puss in Boots movie that came out a couple of years ago. That was like their first shot at this.
I've heard comps. Like it almost is video gamey, but in like a good way. Like it's low poly, but it's exactly as detailed as it needs to be. And it's like inspired, like it's well-conceived art.
Well, it's almost like impressionistic. A lot of the art that you see in this movie, the way that like colors and the way that light is perceived is not how light looks in nature. Whenever you see like a fire happen, that's not the way that fire looks.
Yeah,
it almost reminds
me, red.
It reminds you of like a Ghibli movie. A lot of this movie, especially like the nature aspects of it, where it's very much just like about the tone, the impressionism.
Yeah, and I would rather have scenery that looks artistic and impressionistic rather than being able to count every blade of grass on the fucking ground. I think for a good while, animation got stuck in that trap because of how impressive what Pixar was doing. The amount of news stories in 2003 about how long it took them to fucking res Sully's hair in Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's easy to fall down that pit hole. This movie just does so much right in terms of not doing that. Story-wise, you feel like you're about to get something pretty derivative, and then by the second act, that story that you thought you were going to get is over, and it's going to insane places in the third act. Like it's going somewhere that you would just not predict, because so what you're getting is a classic, like really, a super solid bones of a kids movie. You're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, this is all coming together. I get it. Kids premise. It's a robot washes up ashore in this weird, like sort of futuristic kind, you're assuming like almost post like apocalyptic event.
Yeah.
But also maybe sort of like a Wall-E situation where everyone just left. So it's this world, a robot washes up on the shore. It's fucking gorgeous. And it's all nature. Like it's just an island of animals. And the robot is programmed to need to serve a purpose.
Robot is mom.
Very Mr. Meeseeks. Like the robot is like, I can't fucking leave until I do my job here.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you
look at me.
Yeah. She's like, you have to give me a fucking job. And, ends up running into a family of possums that are very funny. These kids, whatever kids they got to read these lines, fucking slaying.
Isn't Matt Berry a possum?
No, Matt Berry is the beaver.
Oh, that's what it is.
He's very funny. Ends up encountering a duckling, and just through the mother possum just like offhandedly saying a line, her task ends up being like raise this duck.
You are now mother.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal still hot as a fox.
Hey,
it's a sexy fox.
Again, a really like surprisingly dynamic character. Like, you're like, okay, so this is like the piece of shit fox that's like gonna undermine. He then becomes invested in the story. He also, he's gaining personally from the robot because it's a fucking machine that can like build him a perfect shelter. So he sticks around for that reason, but then ends up like coming to an understanding of what love is. Like it gets really heady.
Yeah. For like a children's movie. And just, the themes about like parenting is something that like I cannot remember seeing something expressed in the way that it is, and about like chosen family, all of these kind of big, heavy ideas that are expressed in a movie that can still very much be like easily enjoyed by kids, and then just pick up on the very surface level of like, oh, it's just like, Duck wants to grow up and like do your thing. But like as a parent or as an adult, you're watching it with completely different context of what you were seeing and how the story is playing out.
It's about a neurodivergent mom raising a normie son.
Yeah. Shout out to Lupita.
Dude, Lupita's
work.
Really,
so
really one of, I think like fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like
it's one of the best voice performances, new voice performances I can remember in years.
Yeah. I haven't like made a ballot yet, but I think it would be honestly fun to stick her on a ballot for best actress, because like,
so we actually have a best hybrid performance category at the Central Florida Critics Group. So
she won.
Did she win?
Okay, yeah, good. Yes, I think that she won. Also, she won my personal ballot.
Robbie Williams found dead in a ditch yet again.
Eat shit, Robbie. I think that like we gotta give flowers to the man who kind of who directed this movie, Chris Sanders. Chris Sanders is a genius of animation. His biggest thing, like well known for, is he directed the Lilo and Stitch movie. He wrote Lilo and Stitch. Oh, and then also he was the voice of Stitch, the guy who wrote and directed Stitch. He also
okay, Lupita, action.
There you go.
Okay. I was trying to like buy time for you to pull that one out. He then made How to Train Your Dragon, the first How to Train Your Dragon, which I think is a stone cold masterpiece. It's one of the best animated movies of like the 20th.
Is he involved in the new How to Train Your Dragon?
He technically has writing credit, but How to Train Your Dragon was made by two guys, and it's
Dean
the new
DeBlois.
one is made by Dean DeBlois, who's the co-director. So I might be good.
So I don't want to poop on your party. I was not a huge fan of this movie. That's my bad. That's totally on me. The AI propaganda like really got to me for some reason while I was watching this, and I just could not get over it. And I just got to the end and I was just like, oh, this is just teaching kids how to love like AI robots. So that's just me. I just needed to say my piece, but
I mean, I guess, are you like not able to enjoy like any robot story now at this point? Because
Bicentennial Man ruined all robots.
Well, okay, now that's fair. That's totally fair.
I'm not the same man I was before.
That's just like if
you're watching like Blade Runner now, and you're like, I don't like that they're trying to make me empathize with these
Well, the whole point of that is they don't know if they're robots or not.
Wow.
That's the beauty of that. This one is just like, let's teach children to love robot. Robot is mom.
So if you think that, the issue with that is like, if this was like one of those movies made by a studio and it had like 7 writers and 3 directors, then like maybe this is just like an auteur thing that a guy wrote.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's a good movie. I'm just saying, me personally, like, I didn't connect with it because of that. Like, I just got hung up on that.
Well, absolutely. And it's all, I don't know the exact definition of propaganda, but I don't think that he's attempting to propagandize AI at all.
It is based on children's books that I do think those books are trying to propagandize AI.
Like the writer of the children's book is like, what did they have, Apple stock or something?
Maybe.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I really struggle to find any reason that would be true.
I don't really think that the AI part of this is where like the movie, or I don't know the source material, but like where that's interested in exploring. I think it is more so about like the robot aspect of it, aside from just being like trying to learn to love and learn like what basic human things is. It is this disruption to the circle of life. I think it's not an accident that the first like 10 minutes of this movie, you just see like a lot of death. You just see like a lot of things. And it's like framed in like almost like a comical way, but it's just like, I don't know, dude, it's a fucking dog eat dog world out there. And like,
nature.
this is nature is just going to eat itself, and putting a robot out there that there is no predator or prey.
Robot will save you. Robot will keep you safe.
Okay.
Nature's no match for robot.
You need to let yourself watch a fucking kids movie.
But also,
if I wanted to go down the list of every movie ever and do that, you could. You could be like, you like Top Gun? The military is worse than fucking AI.
That's true.
The military is the worst thing to ever exist.
Hey, Tom Cruise ain't got shit on AI.
The U.S. We should have all hated Top Gun Maverick. It's fucking disgusting. It's awful what they're doing in those movies. They're normalizing the military industrial complex.
That's facts.
It's disgusting.
But Tom's there, and so I
exactly.
Yeah.
Like we could go down the list and be like that.
Tom could be a better robot mom.
Tom is a robot.
Tom is kind of a robot mom in a lot of ways. I will also say that I think that smartly, Roz, the robot, is not like white savioring nature. It's not like she's going in there Lawrence of Arabia style and like, I will teach you the new world. She is like brought in and taught to be to love, taught to care for others, taught to like, it's something that they foster a codependent relationship on one another. It's not just,
I'm not trying to fight you on this. I just wanted to say my piece. I don't want to argue. You could like the movie. It's okay. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
Like, anyways, I have to go like go to Chat GPT to like email this fucking person that I want to talk to. So
the other another reason that didn't pop up for me is because she like throughout the movie, she is it becomes a plot line that she's undermining her programming and like really fucking herself up by doing that.
Yeah.
And also she's like not like she's like almost a defective product in the first place because she's like washing up on a shore. When the real like robots who actually like do their job come in, they're fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
They're like bad, like villainous characters, even though they're just doing what they're programmed to do. So you're led to think, well, the robots are bad. Like they are, they're the big bad. They're the evil. Also, I think it's fun that like the humans have essentially zero. Mm-hmm. Like they're, you know what I mean? They don't say shit.
They're around. Do we see them?
Yeah.
In the end, when they're on like it's not a spaceship. It's like a facility.
Yeah. It's almost like a giant greenhouse kind of thing.
So that's what I was talking about plot wise. Like we go through the motions of like a very good, but like sort of expectable, children's plot with raising this kid. It's really effective. It's emotionally, retching because we're getting good performances. Teaching this duck how to fly. I think one of the only real issues I have with the movie is the original song that comes in. The song is so fucking lame.
It's bad.
It's awful.
It's winning a little too much.
Dude, I know. What the hell?
No, can I say something? And I felt bad as it happened. I cried during that scene. I was like, God damn it. You fucking got me, you piece of shit. But also the movie, it's like a testament to the filmmaking of the movie.
Is that
like,
when the
moment.
bird like leaves the island?
It's the training montage of like
that's a good moment
flying and everything.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
I fucking cried. Okay, and that shitty goddamn song was playing.
Yeah,
it's
that
like,
song just sucks.
It's really terrible, and it's gonna win best original song. And I'm like,
there was like a lizard brain part of me that was like, you need to procreate. You need to send your child off into the world to conquer beyond you. And I was like, shut up.
Listen, I don't know. I think that you definitely, as you can with most movies, especially kids movies, you could like cinema sins this thing apart. Like the movie ends with just like all the animals in the forest getting along with each other. Okay, how are they gonna eat?
They're gonna have to fucking eat each other.
They're gonna have to eat each other. And cool, maybe once every like winter we can have like a ceasefire and all snuggle for warmth. But then we got to go back to just fucking eating each other.
Yeah,
so.
or they're basically just gonna develop like some kind of racism and be like, okay, well, like the rabbits aren't real.
Well, the beavers are working on agriculture, so maybe there's something
they're gonna become vegetarian.
That's facts.
The bears are like, I do not have the teeth and the bone structure to become a vegetarian. I
did like, part of me did hope that one of the bears was going to at least try to eat something in that cave, and that someone would have to be like, all right, man, like, let's keep it cool.
Also, that's the other piece of this movie that I really didn't.
Mark Hamill, grizzly bear would never.
I didn't want it to work how Sacker in the movie is at points like that, where it's like, this is like too fucking sweet. That's another pitfall of a lot of children's movies. It's like, give me an edge here. But that's when we move on into this like really strange, like bold plot choice of like, she gets abducted. She goes back. The entire fucking forest burns down because they're pursuing her. In a really effective, like kind of scary set piece, especially for a kids movie. I was like a pussy when I was a child. I would be terrified of this movie.
But it's scary, but it's not too scary. I think it's still appropriate for like little kids.
Like it's still something you would give to a kid to watch, but it's like affecting.
Yeah, for adults.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, you're getting the impressionistic thing of just like really like glowing red fire.
Yeah.
And so you don't end on like a really definitively happy note. Like you get I think the perfect amount of happiness at the end, because the wild robot, like Roz realizes that she has to leave and just obey because they're never going to stop coming for her. What's the movie where that's a line? They're never going to stop coming.
That we saw recently?
No, I forget it.
Everybody runs, Drew.
Everybody runs.
But so she goes back, assumes her role, even though she knows that she has like the ability to now think with her heart, and then just like goes to like be like a slave basically until she can figure out a way to get back out. And I think the choice to end the movie on the note of her being visited by the baby duck again is like, it's like chef's kiss, like perfect amount of like not resolving everything, not even coming close, but like you feel good.
Yeah. Well, it is like, there is a true bittersweetness to it. Cause it's like, oh no, like maybe like they'll like sneak in and visit right now, but like they're never going to like all live together happily ever after. And like the moment that Roz leaves this island, it might all go to shit again. This movie just really, and aside from the saccharine nature that we're kind of talking a lot about, a lot of the themes of this movie and the stylistic choices itself reminded me of a Ghibli movie more than like pretty much any other American animated film. Just this kind of underlying thing that like, it doesn't really matter like what you do, like whether it's humans, whether it's robots, nature will always win. There's always going to be, guess what? You burn the whole thing down, it's going to grow back again. It's going to grow back thicker than it did before. And I think that is like such a cool idea, that kind of resilience is not just important for the characters, but for like the overall theme of what they're trying to present.
I feel like the Foxes need to like unionize to get like more positive representation in media.
Well, Pedro Pascal is a good step.
Yeah, exactly. He learns, but like, God, they're always little pieces of fucking shit.
Yeah. The Disney Robin Hood.
Hot, also hot.
Yeah, that's a hot fox right there.
Swiper.
All right. The Wild Robot is
Sniper,
Drew's
hot.
number 5. Hunter, number 5.
My number 5 is probably one of my biggest shocks of the year, and that is A Real Pain.
Hey, I'm really surprised that it's this high for you. I mean, I threw it in mine. It's my number 9.
This is my favorite screenplay of the year. This
Man.
won my best screenplay.
It's really cool.
I could not believe this movie whenever we saw it. We just saw it at
Kind of on a whim.
little screening. We're like, oh no, I'll go see it. I heard some good buzz out of Sundance and everything. And
We like Kieran Culkin.
I was floored by this. I have not seen any other Jesse Eisenberg's directed films, but
It's only his second film.
yeah.
And the
what was
first one, it was like a Finn Wolfhard movie.
Nobody
That's what it
liked
was.
it.
Nah, people did not care for it.
Yeah, I know that was another Sundance release one, but the basic premise of this movie, this is a buddy cop movie. It's just two guys for the most part. There is a cast of characters that we kind of interact with, but it centers around these two cousins played by Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, and their journey through Poland to kind of discover a little bit of their grandmother's roots,
Who just
and
passed.
get in touch with maybe their own heritage, learn a little bit about themselves. It is a very, very simple premise, but it's all about the execution.
Yeah,
I think
because
that's-
it's not trying to be anything more than it is. You know what?
Yeah.
Like the movie ends at 82 minutes.
Yeah.
Credits roll. It's
Wow.
It's so quick.
So breezy.
It's so quick, and I just feel like it knows what it wants to communicate, and it does that, and then it's done with.
I think that's he's going to win the Oscar. But Kieran Culkin, it's one of the
Is
best
that where things are
performances that-
trending?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's looking
I
it's
haven't
looking like
caught
it's gonna
up.
be like a lock. He's
So-
starting to really win all of the preliminaries.
I would love that. I think people are starting to get a bit sneery and saying, "Well, it's just Roman."
He's not doing Roman.
Well, it's not just Roman. B, I mean, there's
It is a little Roman.
there's plenty of Roman in there, 100%. But he's giving he's dialing it in a different way.
Right.
B, we are this used to be a very common thing. If you have an actor that's really good at something, a movie that's made just for them to do that is good.
pop off.
yeah, just do the
duh.
thing. That's not a
Um,
bad thing.
Yeah, and also Eisenberg is doing yet another
Mhm.
flavor of his anxious guy. And a few things about the making of the movie, I think really sort of add to the flavor of the experience, because they by some accounts didn't get along great on set, because they both, it's not that they were intentionally written to be playing themselves, but because they did have that exact same dynamic on set. Obviously Eisenberg is, as a director, is very meticulous. He really is the character he wrote. That's a lot more similar.
And the subject matter is very personal.
Kieran is genuinely he sort of needs to be improvising when he's
off the
acting.
wall, bouncing.
Yeah, that's what he's good at. And so he was driving Jesse fucking crazy when they were shooting this. This was happening. What we're watching was happening. That's really cool. Another piece that makes me instantly forgive it's just Roman critique is that Eisenberg he hasn't seen Succession. The only time he had seen Kieran perform is when he auditioned, which, by the way, was also, I think, before his first movie even came out. He already had this one in the can.
Did you listen to his Mark Maron episode?
I've listened to a few interviews with him because he is really articulate, man. He's very unpretentious about the way he describes things, because he really speaks the way that his characters do. It's just crazy rapid fire, very matter of fact.
Yeah.
But he obviously he has a lot more life to him than some.
Yeah, but it's so interesting how he's basically just a guy who lives in New York, right? He doesn't have the lavish movie star lifestyle.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. He's doing this because he wants to, not because he has.
Right,
to.
and he's a dork ass. He likes theater. This is a very theatery piece. This reads it reads like a play.
Well, it reads almost I mean this in a non-derogatory way, but it reads almost like therapy. This is actually him just trying to write through, and I have read a couple interviews and things like that they said, and this was really a very, very personal story about wanting to connect with his own heritage, and kind of specifically a lot of the little moments that you get within this story that are questions of I am an American who like is doing like well for myself, and I'm atheist, but my grandparents like thought that they were gonna die and
survive the Holocaust
because they were the way they were born.
Yeah.
And how do I justify like my own existence right now?
Yeah, and feeling guilty for your own like self-pity,
Right.
Like, feeling bad because you feel bad.
A real pain. What is a real pain?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, is
Well, it's
is
just
it the weight that you
depression.
carry?
Yeah, it's just literally, it's just feeling like it's putting on the mask of that other people want you to put on.
Taking a step back though, I think because that is obviously that's a big piece of like the premise of the movie and the setting. And it's really interesting. Like we get to see like modern Poland in a very like matter of fact light. Like
Incredible sequence.
Yeah.
The still shots of the area.
yeah, which again, it was, you know, if you listen to Eisenberg, that's sort of like a happy accident. It's not at all what the movie was supposed to be in the first place. But I think the biggest thing that isn't getting discussed because it's a little touchy is that this movie is a movie about borderline personality disorder. It's about living with it or living around someone with it. Eisenberg has been very tight-lipped. He is obviously not going to say, but he has someone in his life with borderline personality disorder. This is too. It's too central. Well, it's too central to the movie. Either that, or he just Googled borderline personality disorder and wrote like what.
Right.
The actual scene to scene of what you're seeing is way too much of like if you have been around this kind of personality in your life, where it's just like we're having a great time, we're all having fun. Oh, now we're all just like kind of standing around like looking at each other because like the mood just flipped on a fucking dime and we don't really know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting that I feel like the audience surrogate character in this movie isn't the Eisenberg character. It's the other people that are on this trip with them. They're just kind of like experiencing both of them together.
Yeah. And I love it because it's not like the closest that we usually get to the reason this disorder is even touchier than most other mental illnesses is because it's a lot more behaviorally based than it is like symptomatically. Like it's a lot more external than a lot of mental illnesses. And so it's less treatable than something similar like bipolar, for example. And the result is like people that have it really affect others positively and very negatively. The reason I love this movie is because it shows you the positives.
Mm-hmm.
The closest you usually get in movies to seeing BPD is like a femme fatale.
Yes.
It's like like
Manic Pixie Dream.
It's like
Girl.
fucking like Basic Instinct Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like not real. You know what I mean?
kind of wanted a little bit of that in this movie.
You wanted Kieran to open up his legs.
Let's get some hoes in here.
No, just Kieran.
But that is like the subject of this movie. It's living with someone with like raw dogging life, completely unmedicated, and cannot help but be irresponsible with their fifis and impact everyone around them as such. I think it's really, really effective in that regard. And I think Kieran, I mean, this, you know, he was just born to do this. Like him being a raw nerve is crazy entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, and the way it's written, like you said, this is your screenplay of the year too. It does a really good job of conveying how it like dealing with people with this disorder or living with it. It gives you a short memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like you fucking hate him for like half of this movie. And then the next scene, you're like, God, I love this guy.
Yeah.
Like it genuinely has that effect on you. Right. Watching the movie.
I know people like
it does simulate like having someone in your life with BPD. It does a good job.
And that's why I gave this like my screenplay of the year, even though a lot of the Lil Kieran isms are improvised, is because of like what you're talking about right there, is that it very much scene to scene knows how to find the right balance between like you are laughing out loud because it's like some of the funniest shit that you'll ever see. You're like cringing in your seat a little bit. You like feel bad, like it hurts what you're looking at. And then like you just immediately bounce back to the next thing. Well, and I think it's the dynamic of these two characters together because they are so polar opposite of each other, where the Kieran character, the Benji character, is so unabashedly himself. He is so just him. He just is Benji, for better and for worse. And Jesse Eisenberg, David is his name, is paralyzed. He is always paralyzed by everything, mostly because he's grown up and watched Benji be the wild one. He's like, I have to be the restrained, controlled one, because if I'm not, then no one is.
Yeah. Well, and also it's a lot more explicit about his mental illness. He just says he has OCD in the movie because, again, like I think partially because there's a lot less stigma there. Like he's like, yeah, I just take pills. I take pills for my OCD and I fucking like kiss my wife or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's just wildly effective in that way. And it also, by highlighting like the positive, moments of dealing with like this disorder, the movie's not afraid to say like, hey, Kieran is like positively affecting all of these people like overall. Mm-hmm. Like everyone except for one person
except for Mark. Fucking that guy just hates.
Which, by the way, 100% correct. Like the older dad would not put up with this fucking guy. They'd be like, "What? Why is he acting like a sissy?
Yeah, get him out of here."
Yeah, but everyone else is like genuinely affected by him, even though
I love the tour guide. It was a good little moment.
Yeah, Will Sharp. Listen,
from White Lotus.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to give him a minute here because like the polar difference between his like on White Lotus,
what he was doing on White Lotus.
He's playing like a
cuck.
He's playing like a Reddit like tech bro type, like almost like an incel.
Yeah. Please fuck my wife, sir.
And then in this movie, he's like he's a likable, like fucking, what is he? Super British? Is that what it is in this movie?
Yeah.
I think it's tour guide.
Yeah. He's not like a Jewish, Polish tour guide. He's just like a guy who's just like, I just love Jewish history.
Yeah.
I find it so fascinating.
Ultra British, very likable.
What do you find fascinating, sir?
Very likable, very charismatic. Like I was absolutely, it took me a half hour to be like, there's no way it's this guy.
Yeah. No, he transforms a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a good performance.
Well, and generally I enjoy this setup of, this like disparate group of people who band together on a tour group.
I wanted a little more. That's my biggest complaint from the movie. I felt like the movie was so good that by the time it ended, I felt like
there was more meat on the bone.
Yeah, like you could have just squeezed a little bit more juice out of it.
I think for me, I agree in terms of I wanted a little more of the ensemble. I thought that I thought there were interesting relationships forming among these people, and they were all very believable. Like I like these characters.
They were all very, very real people. I think that is fair. I think that's the reason why it's at number 5 on my list and not number 1, because I think that if we got more of that, then it might be like, oh shit, this is one of my favorite movies of the last few years. And I don't. It gets close. It sniffs it with a lot of like what we're talking about here with the writing, with the performances. I do like though how much of this whole movie almost feels like a memory of itself in real time. Like it's like I remember all these people on these trips. I remember these like snapshot things about their personality and this one conversation that we had. But in reality, it was just like me and my cousin bonding. And now I just have to go back to whatever my life is. Maybe it's monotonous. Maybe I like it. Maybe I hate it. But it's just like almost we are in real time. Like I think about the last shot of this movie all the fucking time where it ends where it begins of Kieran in the airport. And it's almost like we are having the memory that he is of the trip that he just went on, like in that moment.
Wow. That's a great read.
That's kind of where I've settled on what the movie is and why we are just getting these little snapshots of people. I do love though how layered they are, like within those little snapshots. It's not just like snapshots, like they are all character archetypes of each other. Yeah. The Marsha character, who's like the first time that you see her, it's like Kieran's gonna fuck that woman. Like that's what's gonna happen.
Hey, guess what? Maybe he did.
Maybe he did, or maybe he like had like a pseudo mother relationship with him. Maybe it was both. Like. You don't
really
know.
It's Roman. That's Roman. That's Roman.
Right. There you go. What's his name? The African man. Who was converted to Jewish Judaism.
He was really compelling.
Wasn't he a survivor of the Rwandan genocide?
That's what it is, Rwanda.
Something like that.
Like I thought that his character is like such a cool, fascinating.
The casting is really incredible, and it really peaks for me in the concentration camp scene where. Eisenberg makes the choice to just have them walk in front of the camera and look directly into the lens as they're seeing essentially like the gas chamber of this concentration camp. And to me, that's kind of like one of the scenes of the year.
Yeah.
Like I might just submit that in our category for the WBAMs because the coalescence of like the casting of these actors, seeing their faces in this beautiful close-up and just the context of why they're looking into the lens, what they're looking at, everything around it, all of the thematic ideas around that scene.
Yeah,
and the fact that it doesn't overstay, that it's like a quick little bit and then we move on is really inspired.
I also think that it's always like, it's a cliche to say, but it's almost about like the best screenplays are like in what you don't say sometimes. And I think that it is set up expertly right before this, is that they go to the town that is like a quarter mile away from where the concentration camps happen. And Eisenberg makes this like genius choice to do that same kind of thing where he's holding still on spaces, but it's empty spaces. And it's just like, I want you all to just
we get the
take
narration.
a look out here and just think about what was here. Don't think about the atrocities that were to come. Think about a thriving market. Think about a library. And it's just showing like now what is like a rundown building. Now what is just an alleyway. Now what is turned into a chase bank. Like all of these things that have now been modernized or have now been destroyed by Germans and everyone else who has come in there and kind of ransacked the city. But how this used to be a place that was beautiful and thriving. And then we go to the concentration camp afterwards. We don't immediately just go there to the evil. We do have that little moment, that reprieve to kind of think about all the good that was.
Well, shout out to how Eisenberg talks about the idea for this movie. He saw a like banner ad that said Auschwitz tours with lunch. That's what sparked the idea for this movie.
That's crazy.
This was actually a different script that he had that was
it was
had
like
some
totally
similarities.
different. It was going to be in like a tropical location.
Yeah, like Southeast Asia or something.
Yeah. Again, it pays. I hate to say it, but like to have a director that's that articulate and an actor that's that like, well spoken is like, man, sometimes it is nice to just like know what's going on in their head. Anyway,
also, just got to shout out the shot of the shoes.
Yeah.
In the concentration camp.
Which
is
well, so the reason
hurts.
You're totally right that like the setup like creates like the real beauty in that scene. The other thing that really works is that is one of many moments where like the movie shoot very clearly just kind of becomes documentary. Like they're actually there at the concentration camp. This is actually a group of people who are not native to Poland, like visiting a concentration camp and truly being effective. Like, I don't think there was much more direction than like, hey, let's feel this. Like, let's feel it out. Let's really look at this shit, And you can see it in the actors. Like it doesn't feel like
acting.
Yeah, they're not reaching for something. They're not like fucking breaking down.
That isn't like take 7 of them looking at the gas chambers. Like it feels very genuine.
Yeah, I love it. It's really beautiful. And then I kind of agree with you. Like where if we're lengthening, it is a bummer that they kind of they leave the tour early to go to Gim's house. Just because I was really
give me more. I could have watched another 20 minutes of this.
There's just like a great like stew brewing with all these people. Yeah. I love them all. I love all the actors and I love the characters. That again, like hard to write an ensemble of characters who introduce themselves like as characters and then still are able to surprise you.
Yeah.
Like it's just great.
But also be in the background. Be like very clearly supporting players and all of this that's happening. Lead. Like they are all there
Kieran
for
is
certain
lead.
Purpose.
he's gonna win supporting.
No, but that's a joke. That is some.
He's a co-lead. Whatever.
Crazy category fraud right there.
That's
whatever.
So wild.
Yeah, it's stupid that like he is not a co-lead. But I gotta also shout the actual Jesse Eisenberg moment that he has, the breakdown, where he tells all of them like he's
all the background
fucking like he's a bum. He wants to fucking kill himself after like everything that his family before him put in. He's ungrateful.
He lived with grandma his whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
brutal. It's crushing.
Yeah,
It's
my
absolutely
favorite
crushing.
scene in the movie is, even though Kieran is like my performance of the year is the dinner table.
Yeah.
With no Kieran. Because it's gorgeous.
Great
acting.
choice to.
I didn't know Jesse
set
had
up.
it in him, like that scene, like
Yeah.
that kind of acting. I've
That's
never
the
seen
Oscar
Jesse
scene for him.
do something like
Yeah.
that before.
Great choice to set up the idea of like the cliche of him walking in on everyone hearing him talking about him, and then he just playing the piano. Like that's a great little.
And again,
right
it's
there.
the BPD thing that you're talking about. It's just like, oh no, he's having a good.
Now we like him.
Yeah,
It just it gets so much right that I know it was very well researched by Eisenberg, and I think a lot of it's coming from experience. But he's not going to be like, oh yeah, that's my fucking mom, or what, you know what I mean? But like it's like the causal relationship between events and how it triggers something. It's so perfect. I can't even explain.
A real pain.
I got two other Kieran moments that I fucking love. Are one, whenever there's the first scene of them talking about like, oh, like how you guys get here, like what is the reason why you joined the trip and everything, and that's like the first like real cringe moment that we're getting with Kieran, where he's just like, oh shit, dude, what the hell, you survived the Rwandan genocide.
Crazy, dude.
That's crazy. And then also the moment where they're like, it's still early on, and you see Kieran like looks out at Marcia, and she's walking along. She's like, she has a deep sadness about her. I'm gonna go to her, and you're like, at that point, you're like, is he gonna try and fuck this woman, or like what's happening? He's like, yeah, are you doing like walking alone like some kind of fucking weirdo?
Yeah, it's just
all kinds of like little lines that's like that is littered throughout this movie. They're just like, Kieran Culkin is like nobody else could do this.
Yeah.
There is no recasting
and it's just
of that role.
It's inspired to have them like him.
Yeah.
Like I think it's
beautiful.
It rocks.
A real pain. Hunter's 5 and Drew's 9. We're at my number 5, which is The Brutalist. Any Brutalist boys on the podcast today?
Nope.
I did not
Go for it.
think so.
Okay.
I did not think so. The Brutalist hive is rising. It's climbing. The boys have assembled, and you're invited if you want to be a part of it. It's an open door policy into the Brutalist boys, non-gendered. We're not gendering the boys hive, the Brutalist hive. It's an open door policy. This movie is an achievement of cinema. It is one of the most astonishing, outstanding films I have seen, not just this year, but in a long time. The level of detail that is achieved on such a small budget, the scale of this thing floored me on every level. I love this movie so much. I've already seen it twice. This is one of those movies that benefits a lot from a second viewing. I know it's a lot to ask people to watch a 3.5 hour movie with an intermission twice, to see this thing twice. But all of the questions, all of the concerns, all of the quibbles that I had upon the first viewing of this film, I had them at the front of my mind going into the second watch. And it is a fundamentally different experience watching this movie for a second time, knowing how it ends, knowing how the second half plays out, and knowing all of the quote unquote like problems or questions that you may have about the more under the surface elements of the story. It's a story about an immigrant. Adrian Brody plays the titular brutalist, Laszlo Toff. Not a real person, but based on real people, based on a real movement of architecture, of brutalism in post-war Europe. Speaking of post-war Europe, speaking of the Holocaust, this is very much tied to a real pain thematically in a lot of ways. Brady Corbett is the director. He co-wrote it with his wife. Her name is Mona Fastvold. You also got Felicity Jones, Guy Pearce, Joe Alwyn in here. Alessandra Nivola. Big cast. Massive movie.
I'm not being quiet out of disdain. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
No, I'm like, I was just letting you clear out.
Hunter's being quiet, like with an attitude.
Huge flex.
Yeah.
Like Brady Corbett, he knows he made a banger. He's out there talking about Final Cut. He is being very arrogant and adamant about the fact that he made.
I think arrogance kind of the right word for it.
You kind of have to be. When you make a movie this good, you kind of fucking have to be, because this doesn't happen very often. We don't get swings like this very often. We are very lucky to get a movie that just fucking goes for it. It's trying to do so much. It's so big. It's so gargantuan. I could go on and on about it. I'll plug it here. I was able to talk about this movie extensively on Adam's new podcast, Films for Breakfast. Tune in. It'll probably be up on his feed by the time this goes out. I don't know exactly when he's putting it up, but it might coincide just around the time that this episode is going out. So go ahead and go check that feed out. Shout out to Adam. We really dug into it. I got into all the details. We really got extensive with our review. I love this movie so much. I'm deeply considering watching a third time just because there's so much to dig into. There's so many angles to look at this thing from. It feels like a gift. It feels like we have been given a true epic. And it lives up to that word in so many ways. It doesn't fall short, especially on the second watch. Any shortcomings or questions or doubts that I had upon the first viewing were pretty much cleared up on the second viewing. I see this movie in an entirely different light upon the second viewing. And I know it's a lot to ask to watch a movie this long a second time, but if you're able to do it, if you're able to carve out the time, it is incredibly rewarding. What a picture. So
I think that you are on the majority here at this point. Like The Brutalist, and now at this point is the favorite for Best Picture. After really dominating the Globes, and Brady Corbet is pretty much a lock. He has stolen Best Director from our boy Sean Baker, which I have different thoughts of that I'll hold. I was not as high in this movie as you. I do want to preface
we got into it a little bit on the golf course.
On the golf course. I want to preface this by saying, like, I do not think that this is a bad movie by any means. I think that it is a good movie, but I was deeply frustrated with a lot of this movie. I think that this is a movie that it loses itself, and sure, you can say like it has so many ideas on its mind that like there's just like so much and we have to admire it for that. You could say the same fucking thing about Megalopolis. That is
also an architect
movie that is trying to say something about like,
America,
a lot of different things, and also
just
about
wait a minute. Maybe just wait a sec. Maybe we'll talk about Megalopolis.
Hey, hold on.
Save it.
My jaded Letterboxd review for The Brutalist would be Brady Corbet is way too talented of a director to have Brady Corbet as his writer. Because
that's what I thought the first viewing. Absolutely.
I'm gonna be honest.
There's a Brutalist one-time watcher take.
I'm gonna be honest,
idiot.
There is no fucking way that a second watch is gonna fix a lot of the fundamental issues out of the movie. Namely, being I think Felicity Jones is actively really bad in this movie. Like I
was kind of on that side after the first viewing.
Okay. But I'm not devoting 7 fucking hours to decide if I like a movie or not.
Watching this movie a second, because dude, you know the ending of the movie, the epilogue. It is such an out of left field ending. The way this movie ends is such like a what the fuck is going on ending that when you go into it for the second time, you're thinking about that ending the entire time. You're thinking about how do we get there? How does everything fit into that epilogue?
Am I supposed to leave? Should I leave? Or
No. Because I can talk about my thoughts without spoiling this movie.
No, we gotta push.
Let the boy watch.
Listen, I just think that the thing is with this movie, and yes, I know explicitly like kind of the themes that you are talking about, and I have been thinking a lot about this movie. I have been like listening to the pods. I've been reading other reviews of people that like that have said things that like frankly I did not feel like I said.
You're Catch Me If You Can Leo looking in through the window on Christmas Day saying, "Why has my family replaced me?"
I don't think I want to be a brutalist boy, to be honest.
okay,
I think I'm good on that. I actually
we welcome
here's
all.
the thing. I left this movie and I was like, maybe studio notes aren't a bad thing sometimes. Maybe could have used some notes. It kind of feels like a first draft in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that, whenever it comes to the script itself, is that this movie, where I was the most frustrated, is in its vacillation between like trying to be metaphorical in what it's trying to say, and about like trying to build this and like very clear, like this is a movie that is quite at the forefront about directing. It is about trying to put together
it's
your
about
masterpiece.
itself.
It is about itself. It is circle jerking in the most clear way possible that I can remember since movie from Francis Ford Coppola earlier this year. So with that being said, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't have issues with this movie from like the pretentious nature of it all. I have like often have multiple different foreign films on my list and art house things. I'm not gonna be the last fucking person to call a movie pretentious. Where I have a problem with is like the movie's choice in the second act to literalize a lot of the things. In two scenes in particular that come to mind that I won't spoil here, where it's like, do you think that we're fucking stupid, or are you just trying to make a stylistic choice and it's not working at all? One of them is when they make a decision to go to Italy, which once again, in a 3 hour and 3.5 hour movie, if we're going to talk about like trimming up scenes, I don't care about how beautiful this movie looks. I want to say this movie is stupid beautiful.
I'm going to clip this on TikTok.
Okay, fine. Put it. Have the fucking Brutalist boys come after me.
I don't care about how beautiful this movie.
Put it on Red Note.
Listen, Red Note.
Hunter said free Hong Kong.
I will find my fucking allies.
I'm going to
Red
at
Note.
Brady Corbet.
I want to say, like, again, I'm not going to argue about the beauty of this movie because it is stupidly well directed.
Yeah.
The cinematography.
It doesn't matter how a building looks. It doesn't matter if it's beautiful or not. Like, fuck it. It doesn't.
I'm saying that
I don't care.
beautiful.
I don't care if a
giving
building
this movie
is
like
pretty or
fucking
not.
2 stars.
Well,
but
what
I'm
if
saying,
there's a
what is-
guy? There's a guy
what
in
is
that
the
building being annoying.
No, well, here's the thing. Okay, the building is beautiful, but it's made out of fucking glass. Okay, it's made
out of concrete because it's cheap.
It's a goddamn house of cards, is what this movie is, and it falls apart. That's really, if we're gonna use the building metaphor, that is kind of where we are at with this. Adrian Brody is incredible in this movie. Like, I think Adrian Brody, I'm so glad that he is firmly back again, and that he's not just gonna be like stuck only doing Wes Anderson movies. Like, I want him to be more in the fray because he's incredible, except for his fake beard.
The fake beard is tough.
Fake beard is
Fake beard, real nose.
Oh,
Respect.
They talk about the
that
nose.
It
is a plot point.
Big plot point is the nose in this movie.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I like this movie.
Well,
I think that there's an appropriation, like this movie hints at a better movie than itself. And I think that that's what frustrated me more than anything, is that I think that this had the potential to be a truly all-timer.
It is a $9 million budget.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I still think like structure.
The fact that it looks like this is insane.
Here's the thing. We're going to talk about movies ahead of this that have a smaller budget that I think do achieve that. Okay. That I think that it is able to be, I think that it gets to in its own way. You sometimes can bite off more than you can chew. And that's okay.
But at least you try.
Okay, so did Megalopolis. Fucking, if you want to play this game, just because you threw a bunch of shit at the wall doesn't mean that it became art.
Okay. Well, let's wait for Drew to see it and then we can have a deeper dive.
Oh God, I gotta watch that fucking.
It's an amazing film.
No, I know. What I said in the chat about it is that it's ableist against people with ADHD, not because it's too long. That's fine. It's the idea of having to set aside that amount of time is like,
try twice.
Fucking nails on a chalkboard.
Try twice, baby.
Twice is like, you have survivorship bias.
Yeah. I didn't choose this life. This life chose me.
You have survivorship bias. You're just lucky that you lived through watching it twice.
So it must.
I also will say
Probst survivorship.
Really love Guy Pearce in this movie. Don't love his character choices specifically, but Joe Alwyn also great. That guy's just making cool choices, as an actor.
So here's a lot of what you're a lot of your issues that you're taking with this movie sound identical to the issues that I take with Mike Flanagan. But you love Mike.
I love Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, but it's like, hey, would you shut the fuck up and just let like the stuff happen?
See, but no, I think that I want to talk about this movie in more of a spoiler fashion. It isn't even the talking, because again, like my issue with this movie isn't that it's pretentious. My issue with this movie is that I don't think it really settles on what it wants to be. I think it oversells on things. And it's like, we have to literalize this.
Right.
That's the only way that we can actually show something. There's actually no room for any sort of nuance whatsoever.
Okay.
And I think that the lack of nuance is kind of where we're at with the discussion of Brutalist, not just on this podcast right now, but where we are at overall. I don't know. My one thing holding up Brutalist for winning Best Picture is if this is going to end up being a little bit polarizing.
It is.
Because people are already starting to be like, can we fucking calm down?
The Brutalist is my number 5. Check out Films for Breakfast, my deep dive with Adam.
Why isn't it higher?
We'll get there.
Check out my solo pod where I go for 3 hours and 45 minutes about why the Brutalist sucks dick.
Number 4, Drew.
It's me talking at my wife every night.
My number 4 is Challengers.
Let's
are we there?
Go.
Are we here?
Let's do it.
Let's
all
go.
of our top 10s.
Yeah, a virtually like really close to perfect movie.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know,
Luca.
Yeah, it's just flawlessly executed. It's a good rebound from Luca. I Bones and All wasn't necessarily his fault that movie like lost itself. It's a very strange. That was a strange movie. Also strange though is like the amount. I guess I haven't seen Suspiria, but I know like the formal nature of the way it's shot, and that makes sense given how this movie is, because Call Me by Your Name and Bones and All are very shaggy, and they're very just like letting things unfold, almost like a fucking Barry Levinson joint. This movie is so under control, it's insane.
Yeah,
it is so type A.
I think Suspiria is sharper, but also that's a 3-hour movie. So how sharp can a 3-hour movie really be?
It just speaks to him like adjusting to the material.
Yes.
Like that's what this movie calls for. It's just so insanely pointed and perfectionist, and it's as if Zendaya's character made it. You know what I mean? It's like I will accept perfection in every shot and nothing less.
Which it does make sense that then after like the making of this movie, when Luca's just like asked in interviews, like, who do you think like that you've ever worked with who could make the next one? Or no, Denise said that about like, who do you think if you were ever going to have like somebody you've worked with who could make a next director? And he's just like, Zendaya will be an incredible director one day. Oh. But like, it almost does feel like she is channeling a little bit for herself. This is the best that she has ever been.
She's also like, she's playing a director in this. Yeah, basically. It's a director of a gay porn.
And brother, we all get to watch.
Like, literally.
I can't believe how much I haven't had a chance to rewatch this movie, or else there's a chance it might be higher.
Yeah, man. Like it's because it's like perfect.
I've never seen a sports movie quite like this before, because it is like, a lot of people are like, it's not a sports movie because it doesn't even get like what I played tennis and it never looked like this. The ending is ridiculous right now. That's not a tennis Lux.
This is Hunter's Bill Simmons.
Was that a Simmons? Whoa, what was that? No, that wasn't a very good Simmons. I have better one on me. You gotta go a little bit more like.
That's so bad.
That was even worse.
Sorry, it's the sake. I lost it.
One of my favorite Simmons-isms. This, I'm sorry for derailing, but it's when he's like, I just don't think he'd be like fun to play basketball with. Like if we're playing pickup, like I don't want to play with that guy. It's like, yeah, you suck. You shouldn't get the ball. Bill, I know you're bad at basketball. I'm sorry.
Like,
this guy.
I remember
those two guys in the tennis match. They look like they wanted to fuck each other a little bit too much.
I've never seen two tennis players jump over the net at each other.
Yeah, listen.
So therefore, it's not.
Bill is trying.
Not into that.
Bill is trying, but he likes to pick weird bones about gay movies. He does.
Oh, that's fair. No,
it's a movie.
This movie is it is a sports movie in the editing of it. Like this whole movie, there's a propulsive nature to it. This movie's a party, is like really what it is, and that's not just the Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor score, which please give this score a fucking Oscar because it's so cool. It's so inventive in a movie to not have your score be like some kind of orchestral something or just generic whatever sports music in the background of this. The fact that it is such a cool, inventive choice. And
coming in
club music.
Coming in scenes outside of just the sports.
Yes.
Like when people are just having arguments with each other. Like one of my I just rewatched this movie this week leading up to this episode. I had only seen it in the theater when it came out. What was this, April?
Yeah.
And it obviously had been in my top 10 the whole time. And I wanted to refresh myself for this podcast. And I think the scene that stuck out the most to me was the argument between Tashi and Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
That is a one take scene that takes a turn so drastically where you think it's going to be this erotic sex scene and it becomes this tennis match outside of the court. And that fucking score comes in to power it through.
Yeah, it is so insanely effective. It's really beautiful when something like jarring has something is so against what you expect that it like becomes what you expect almost.
Yeah.
Like it so doesn't work that it works better than a normal score.
Yeah.
It's perfection.
Yeah. Not to mention, and I mean, Luca's direction, like this is the coolest directing choices that he has ever made. I think only rivaling it would be like Suspiria, where there's still certain shots in Suspiria where I'm like, I just don't know how you did that. Like I'm like the mirror scene and things like that, where I'm like, I'm still kind of
God mode.
Like what's going on?
There's
right
plenty
now?
of God mode here. When
No,
we're
here-
underneath
we're
the
under
court.
the court, and then like you become the ball.
It's
like
God
there's
mode.
all kinds of stuff.
Hey,
That it's just
I had a little bit of a friendly marriage argument with my wife over this film. She did not like it. She was not a fan. She had some sparring words to.
God, I would love for Lee to watch The Brutalist. Oh man, oh God, I would love that. So
We'll
much.
get there. We'll
That'd
get
be
there.
great.
We'll
Yeah.
get there.
Open door policy.
Please, by all means.
Her main complaint was that the shots were too drawn out and that it didn't like get to the point. It felt like it wasted her time a little bit and that she wanted to connect with the characters a little bit more. And we got really hung up on this point of what is the central point of the movie, right? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And I kept trying to stress the idea of like we are seeing a master at work. Like we are in full command of an auteur vision, right? It's not so much as like we like these people and we want the best for them.
No, it's like
It's more just like we are seeing an artist like push us through this tunnel of drama and power and force.
a movie I'd compare it to is Whiplash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these are people not meant to be related to. They're impenetrable, and that's why they are as good as they are.
These are bad people.
Yeah, the only like penetrable character is Josh O'Connor, but he's a scumbag.
Yeah.
Like he's playing like he's a little stinker.
Yeah.
He's a little piece of shit.
And
we
he's
love
like,
it.
he's in like a shitty point in his life, so you don't like want to be him.
Yeah, but it's also like you're not meant to access death because these are characters that are like Zendaya's character is a chess master in part because like anyone like this, like the reason for her manipulation is that she's unable to reckon with herself. Like she's a tragic character. She cannot do what she was meant to do. And so in order to feel power, she has to exercise her manipulative abilities like this.
Absolutely.
It's about a bunch of psychos.
Yeah.
And it's also another Whiplash similarity. Like you're even more severe than like you're only hearing from 3 people in this movie.
Mhm.
No one else.
Yeah.
There's like the umpire.
I know. I was just like looked at the cast and I was just like, oh no, it's just 3
Apparently
people. That's it.
is Zendaya's friend.
The umpire?
Yeah.
Darnell
she just brought him on set and he just vibed out and he just got the role.
That's fun.
It's just like that. Like it's a 3-hander and that's it. For that reason, it has like you said, it's propulsive and it feels like a sports, scenario because of that. Like it's trimmed all the fat and it's just moving. and if you're looking for a different type of story, you're not going to find it because like this is what it's trying to give you. It's trying to give you this like on the court / off the court like parallel psychosexual manipulative story.
Yeah,
non-linear storyline as well.
Really interesting storytelling. I think the biggest thing I took away from this movie though was like Luca's ability to adjust to the material that he's directing is as good as anyone we have right now.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Villeneuve, where it's like if he's making like a traditional like crime thriller, he'll shoot that.
Yeah.
But it is funny because Luca's like he's almost like a throwback director in that he just loves to stay working, man.
The new one's already coming.
Queer is out. Queer is coming out. Queer is like out and Daniel Craig might be nominated for.
Can I share some queer thoughts here?
I haven't seen it yet.
We've all been waiting for you to share queer thoughts with us.
You first, and then we'll go.
Yeah.
I think I was too harsh on the person.
I also haven't seen the film. I just want to share some queer thoughts.
Okay, good. Yeah.
No, the movie, honestly, I feel like is getting buried because the Challengers Hive is so strong. Even though it's not as strong as we would want it to be, it's not going to be nominated for Best Picture, which is a travesty. But Queer is a great film, and I think that it's not getting recognized because it's not as good as Challengers. It does a lot of things that Challengers doesn't even attempt to do. Challengers is very much just like, how do we focus on the propulsive nature of this story and the fact that we are just on a ride. We're on a roller coaster. We are on this unstoppable force of a story. Queer is a lot more meditative, a lot slower, and it makes a lot of choices towards the end that I think are some of the best stuff that I've seen Luca do in any of his movies, where you sort of transcend into a very surreal world. So I think it's just worth shouting out. I think beyond what any complaints people might have about it, it is definitely worth seeing, because if you see Luca Guadagnino as like one of the greats right now, it's kind of essential to his
Did you see Bones
overall.
and All?
Oh yeah, I love Bones and All.
Yeah, I did like it. It's just,
I really enjoyed it.
It
kind of loses itself a little bit, but it's still
I think Call Me by Your Name is a masterpiece. So I was going in too hot.
I think Challengers is my favorite movie that he's made yet. I think that I would probably go Challengers, then maybe Suspiria, then Call Me by Your Name. But also I haven't revisited Call Me by Your Name since like 2017. So,
and then the Army Hammer of it all.
Hey, that makes it better.
Yeah,
a little tough.
Queer thoughts, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Challengers, fantastic movie. It's like seeing Zendaya in this, I was like, that's it. Like that's the kind of lane. Like I want her to channel this kind of energy.
I did struggle to buy her as a mom a little bit. Like the age of her kid.
Yeah, it has.
It's a little thing, but
it's really funny that we're in the year of our Lord 2024 and movies still really struggle with like time jump, like showing age stuff.
Yeah, it does a great job.
And it's so funny in a different way, and how they all just kind of have like gray hair. Yeah. It's like 20 years later.
I forgot about
they look exactly the same.
Renata Redsim is just like gorgeous. Like you're not an old lady at all.
It's so funny.
I don't remember who made the Letterboxd review, but one of the funny things that I think about Challengers is just like Challengers joins the list of movies that say that they were set in the film 2019 just so you don't have to worry about COVID-19 being a thing.
Right.
Because you're just like 2019 and it's like, oh good.
Yeah. Shout out to the tennis racket in the trunk of my car that is waiting for me to take it to
do you want to play some tennis? Listen,
do it.
there's a tennis court like a half a mile from my house, and I keep walking past it every guy, and I will go on walks, and she won't play tennis.
Is that near the golf course or
other direction? But it's still a half mile there. It's all within a mile of each other.
No, we know your history with catastrophic knee injuries.
No, listen, this bad boy can never be destroyed by man. Only
That's what the doctor said.
Yeah. So now my right knee open and ready to get.
I do have to apologize on my for not letting you know about the knee injury sequence.
Yeah.
I did see this movie before you did.
Yeah,
I forgot to
saw
tell
this.
you.
I did
Hunter-
watch this
if Hunter
movie,
ever
like
sees-
2 weeks after like fucking tearing my ACL.
I could have given you that.
If Hunter ever sees a movie with like a second of cancer, he's not going to tell you.
I'd be like, Ernest, you should watch this.
But yeah, it's a fun time, but it's also like it's about like the psychotic nature of greatness in that whiplash way. Yeah. I think it really accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish.
Also, the ending
movie.
very, very whiplash.
Oh my
like
God.
just climaxing right as we cut to credits.
That's it.
Amazing movie. I hope we continue to talk about it through the WBAMs and through award season. We'll see if it gets any love. I think Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are kind of our lone soldiers at this point as far as the Oscar goes.
Yeah.
That's challengers. It is Drew's 4, Hunter's 7, and my 8. Hunter, where you're number 4.
My number 4 is, I will say, after number 5 for me, there's a tear jump. All 4 of these movies have spent at least some time this year my number 1 spot. So I just want to preface that now that I meant to mention it up at the top. Whenever we started recording 7.5 hours ago, I don't really have a true blue clear number 1 like I have in years past.
Hey, I've heard of the Brutalist, but this is the Brutal List.
My number 4.
Do-do-do-do.
My number 4 is a movie called The Beast.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
This is a Hunter movie.
This is
Sick of these elitist fucking.
See, and this is why I'm never going to say something about The Brutalist being pretentious when I've had 2 French movies in my top 6.
I know.
Well,
here.
hey, again, shout out to the king, David Lynch.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have movies like The Beast if it wasn't for him.
Exactly. This is Bertrand Bonello's film. It is kind of this. It's a story. The basic overarching premise. It's kind of soft sci-fi. It's in like the distant-ish future where a lot of jobs are like looking for humans, like human beings are still around, but we have developed the technology to go back in to scrub the trauma from your DNA, from
all
past
emotions,
lives.
basically.
Yeah, emotions, but like basically like all of your like the implication is that all of your like worst impulses, all of your judgmental thoughts and feelings come from some sort of trauma from your past. And we now have the ability to go back through your past lives to scrub that trauma out so that you can then like basically like get like a better job in the new society that we have here. It's a soft sci-fi. That is the entryway into the story. I will say that is not really what the movie itself is interested in. At its core is this really it's almost kind of like a romance, but it's more.
It's like Cloud Atlas.
I think the better description of it is that it is about 2 people who are played by Leah Seydoux and George McKay, our boy George McKay, who
1917 Hive.
Inextricably like linked to each other throughout history. Cloud Atlas style. For better and for worse. And you are seeing these 3 different timelines take place. One of them being like Victorian England, one of them being essentially modern day LA, and the last
Titanic, Mulholland Drive,
and the last one being this future world that we are in right now, where these 2 characters they have this kind of bond together that they need each other in their lives. It's kind of a difficult movie to spoil as far as what happens in the events that go down. All I can say is like
it's open to interpretation.
Yes.
You kind of get fed all these plot points and then you have to kind of piece it all together.
It is, but it isn't. Especially whenever I was rewatching this movie, it's like it's pretty clear exactly what's going on and what the movie is saying at its end. It is kind of just this story about like men's relationship to women. Is one of the main themes that we are.
Well, especially the Mulholland Drive era.
The LA one. I guess minor spoilers. Very minor
I'm
spoilers.
going to drive a Cybertruck into Trump Tower coded.
Yeah. So the first one we see here is this like romance that could never be, but they have this like infatuation with each other in Victorian England. And the whole time, like in this old world, they're talking about how Lea Seydoux and George Mackay meet years prior. And she talks about how she feels this beast, this darkness that has been following her whole life, and eventually it's going to destroy her. It is going to it's going to ruin everything about like her and like destroy everything that she's going to become. And we are then waiting for the beast the entire time. Actually, and before we even get that moment, how the movie begins is Lea Seydoux, we come to learn in modern times, on just a green screen set and being directed that you are seeing this monster come around the corner and like act like it's coming towards you and then let out this scream. And you spend most of the movie like, okay, I saw this take place. When is this going to happen? Is this actually a real event that we are going to see take place in the future? So we have this Victorian timeline of the two of them together. We then have
the underwater stuff in there is so cool.
So cool. It is such expertly shot. It is very like Cameron-esque, the way that it is shot.
I love it.
With each other, trying to hold each other in their Victorian gowns in the water. The LA timeline, which is probably like the coolest part. It is this one, Lea Seydoux plays a aspiring actress / model in LA in modernish times. And George Mackay plays this guy. His name is hold on, I gotta pull it up because
he's an incel.
It is like an incredible name. It's I think it's hold on. Let me find it.
We Bought a Mic, host of podcasts.
I have to find it because it's.
So what do you think trauma wise happened to Hunter to make him hate the Brutalist?
I think he resents
it's
his heritage.
His name is Louis Lewanski, and he always talks like this. He's like, "Hey there, Louis Lewanski here again," and he has these blogs that he basically these vlogs that he posts about just like
filming from his car.
Yeah, filming from his car. He's just like, I'm a good looking guy. I have a nice looking car. Why don't women want me? And he's just like him like posing with his car. He's like, I buy nice things. Look at these Ray-Bans. I bought these. These were $250.
That's awesome.
And women don't want to talk to me. It's very funny in like the most unnerving way possible because it's like,
this guy's gonna kill someone.
Yeah, it's like I went to school with this guy. Like I don't like how real this guy feels right now. And then his connection that he has with Lea Seydoux. And then that's all tying back together in this timeline where they are going through their history. They're both doing this at the same time as each other. So they are both kind of experiencing their interlinking relationships with each other. But
it's like Assassin's
Creed. Two
Creed.
different perspectives. It is one of the coolest movies that I have seen in years. Like it was truly a blind see. I just like heard people throw around the word Lynchian and I was like, okay, we'll see about that. And I'll go check it out. But it's crazy. Like talking about this movie, recording this on the day of David Lynch's passing, because this is like one of the very few movies where it's like, yes, that actually is Lynchian is the right word for it because it feels like it is existing in this liminal space in between like reality and fantasy, and everything feels a little bit off. I'm never going to forget leaving the theater after seeing this movie, and it was like this like sun shower was happening like as I was walking out of the theater, and like the sky was gray and bright white and it was raining down all at the same time, and like it truly like gave me that dream-like quality of like, what am I experiencing right now? Is this all still like some kind of dream? Am I still stuck in this matrix that they are that our characters are in? It is so cool. I think that it's not something that you hear like French movie and you kind of like immediately kind of shy away from it. This isn't popcorn. I wouldn't say it's not something like Red Rooms, but this is something that I think that if you are open to the idea of something that is a little bit more psychological, something that is a little bit more ethereal, then I cannot recommend this movie enough.
It's called The Beast or Le Bête.
Le Bet. If you are a member of the Criterion channel, it is currently streaming on the Criterion channel.
I mean, I'm the blue collar king of We Bought a Mic. Fuck you guys.
Where's Twister's on your list?
Hey, guess what?
Mr. Blue Collar.
My family, we couldn't afford French lessons for me, so I can't watch that. Oh, and guess what? Subtitles? I can't read.
Yeah.
It's Hunter's number 4. My number 4 is a little movie called Nickel Boys.
Nice. Let's go.
Look at this photograph.
Look at this graph. It's directed by Ramel Ross, who is not primarily a director. He made a documentary called Hale County This Morning, This Evening. He primarily teaches art at a college. Directing films is not his calling, but he was called to make this film. It's an adaptation of a novel by Colson Whitehead, a real life story of a school right here in Florida, right near where we grew up in Tallahassee, in Marianna, Florida, the Dozier School for Boys.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Known as the Nickel Academy in the fictional story. The real story is the Dozier School for Boys. Right around Jim Crow area, right before the civil rights movement really took off. And it's the story of these two boys having to survive this incredibly like harrowing and abusive situation. And the way this movie is put together is unlike anything I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It is one of the most bold and unique films I have had the privilege of witnessing in recent memory. It is told in a first-person point of view, which is a little funny. We've joked about it. It is a very like kind of press X to hug mom.
It literally, there is a press X to hug mom button. I specifically talked about, I don't think it was on pod. It might have been off pod, but that was the one moment that like threw me out of it. It's just like, give me a hug. Oh, I know you can do better than that. And I'm like, I love you, Anjanou Ellis, but I
You're like, I can't do better than that.
If you can get past that, it is such a touching and effective and emotional story that really feels like a new step in the history of cinema. Yeah. Like this feels like we are still forging the ground. Like we are still adding more steps on the ladder of this art form that is only about 100 years old. And when we look toward the 21st century and we try to forge a new era and a new generation of filmmakers, I think this is going to be one of the main touch points of what future generations are going to look at in terms of what this art form can be. And when you hear Ramel Ross talk about this film in interviews, it is so enlightening. He's such a genius when he talks about it. He does not think in terms of a director. He thinks in terms of a photographer or a painter or a writer or just sort of a visual artist. He does not have aspirations to be a filmmaker, to be a famous director. He just saw this opportunity to tell this story and to recontextualize how history has portrayed racism and how photographs and imagery has reinforced racist tropes, and how it's the duty of cinema or just any visual medium to make up for that and to atone for that and to forge new ground, to change the course of what the medium has done to reinforce all these racist tropes, and put forth the idea of not just capturing Black faces, but capturing Black stories and Black humanity. And it's not enough to just take a picture of someone. You have to go further than that. You have to literally make them the camera. You have to put the camera into their body. They have to become the camera.
Yeah, like how like forcing empathy as as much as you possibly can using the medium.
Yeah. It is astonishing. It is the experience of watching this movie in a movie theater is something I will never forget. It is just breathtaking.
Honestly, I really this is like at the top. I still like, this is one of my favorite movies of the year, and I really, really, really regret not seeing this in a movie theater. It's slowly getting more of a wider release, so I think that like come January, it's supposed to get pushed out a little bit more. Who's the distributor for this? Do you remember?
Amazon.
It's Amazon.
MGM.
So who knows? They're kind of dicey. But this movie, especially the ending of this movie, did kind of unlock something for me that now I'm like, okay, I think that I might have missed something on the first watch that I gotta go back and see.
It's such a
Fortunately,
cool
it's not 3.5 hours, so that makes it more rewatchable.
it's definitely not.
So what kind of this school, like the building, what kind of architecture are we talking?
Well, it's all about
It's more like a shack.
It's about how like form lends itself to function. It's the school.
We don't know who designed it, so maybe if we knew the story of the guy who.
Jesus Christ. No, this is a pretty special movie. As much as I made the hardcore Henry jokes and things like that, I think that what you said about forced empathy and forced perspective that's the reason. That's kind of the skeleton key to unlocking a lot of what's happening here. And then it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, there's like some plot things that are like, whatever. I don't really know what's going on here.
A lot of it is from the book.
Yeah.
So I want to read the book to see the overlap there. I know
is it a
Full White.
fiction book or nonfiction?
It is a fiction book, but it is based on a real school.
Yeah, no, I know. My mom grew up in Mariana.
Ask Beth about the Dozier school.
She did awful things up there.
Hamish Linklater's character is actually based.
They came out with the final numbers of unmarked graves, and she was like, "Oh, keep digging, guys." That's a Tuesday.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, Beth.
Yeah. No, the way this movie ends, though, like really, it makes me really.
Apparently, that's all in the book. But yeah, I don't want to spoil exactly where it goes. It's such a cool reveal. But yeah, there's just so much about this movie that feels fresh. It feels new. It feels like it's never been done before. To compare it to something like I Saw the TV Glow, it feels like something outside of the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's not trying to conform to one thing.
And to that same thing that you have to at least hope that there are people who are like 16, 17, 18, 19 that are watching this, and that's like reframing. This will be a touchstone for them. For like, maybe it's not first person POV, but is how can I force the audience to be in a certain viewpoint.
I did listen to, there was an interview with Ramel Ross that I listened to where the interviewer was comparing him to Orson Welles. And when Orson Welles made Citizen Kane, he was so young that he didn't know what you were supposed to do on a film set. So he just kept trying things and asking questions that like you wouldn't ask if you were more seasoned.
Right.
But he was so green that he just kept trying shit, and people would try to tell him like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. And he would be like, well, I still want to do it.
It is crazy that like he might be nominated for best director still. And yet like, he's just like, yeah, I think I'm just going to be a professor though. I have no plans to make any other movies until like I see a script that calls to me.
Right.
Which is just cool. What a guy. What a guy.
It's a phenomenal movie. I highly recommend it. It doesn't, the closest comparison that I've been doing is Zone of Interest, which is, you know, a movie that recontextualizes recent history in a very artistic way and feels very demanding and not entertaining. I don't know if I want to do a full overlap over that comparison because Zone of Interest felt incredibly heavy. And this movie is very heavy, but it also feels very watchable. Yeah. It doesn't feel as much of a chore. And not to say that Zone of Interest is a chore, because that movie feels very watchable as well. But Zone of Interest like kind of hit me like a truck. And this movie felt a little bit more digestible. A little bit more like easy.
It's
even though it's very intense.
Well, I mean, it's still at the end of the day, it's about two boys, and yeah, like they're like in like a really shitty situation, but like you are kind of seeing like their dynamic with each other and like trying to like get out of it and stuff. Like there is like, it lends itself to being,
there's a little bit more levity.
Yeah, maybe fun isn't the right word, but levity. Yes.
Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys is your 4. So I think that we're at a point here where we all have the same 3 and some order.
Yes, we do. I just realized that.
And that's what I was going to say. And the question is, do we want to go around or do we want to go through the 2 movies that we've already talked about in depth and then talk about the one that we haven't?
Hunter,
This is such a good moment.
So Hunter, I'm peeking and we're just the same here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's so
I'm sickened by us.
I had a feel.
We're just too cute, the 3 of us.
Here's the thing. I had a feeling that this was going to be a lot of carryover, and especially up here.
So let's say together: Venom, The Last Dance, Argyle,
Megalopolis, Deadpool,
and Wolverine.
Okay, good.
Hot Frosty.
Good. Hot Frosty. Oh wow, I missed that one. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the substance.
Because
That's my number 2.
Oh,
okay.
look at us. Yeah, sort of an.
It's good.
It's an. I think it's an instant classic movie. Like it's just like it's going to hold its place in what it represents forever. So
it's. I know we talked about this movie like in depth, so I don't have like a ton more to add from that discussion. I think that like we really dissected this movie really well.
We can direct people to the deeper dives, separate episodes on both of.
I will
those.
say, because I have watched Dune. First of all, the people who are now trying to say like, oh, actually, Dune Part 1 is better than Dune Part 2. No, it's not. I'm sorry. Dune Part 2 is just like.
Well, Dune Part 2 is Worm.
I just think like I know, but that's just kind of a thing of like, oh, now like we can all admit Dune Part 1 was better, and Dune Part 2 is just a better movie.
How does it feel?
I get the
right, oh, big worm.
That's good. That's real good. Actually, that's actually not a good Bob Dylan.
Lisa now guy.
I understand you're speaking too clearly. You got to go like
Lisa now guy and the big worm and the one and the one that sand in the desert.
That's more of the Bob.
Shout out to Complete Unknown. A great movie.
I really thought A Complete Unknown was going to make your top 10.
Hey, man, I had to ride hard for photojournalism.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I should have left my number 1 spot empty for when I see A Complete Unknown. Shout out Timmy.
It was in that slot for Civil War so long.
Some of us knew all along.
Yeah.
Like that you had this press tour in you. Mm-hmm. He was born for this press tour.
I want to say there's somebody, I don't remember. I think it was on a Ringer pod, but I don't remember who's the one to actually say it. It might have been Craig that said it. But compared Glenn Powell's like movie star of the year campaign as remember a few years ago to the Buda Baker interception where he's about to run back a pick 6 and then DK Metcalf comes running in out of fucking nowhere and like fucking swats the ball out. Yeah. It's literally just like that where Timmy was like, oh shit, wait, sorry Glenn, Timothy Chalamet's here and he was in Dune in A Complete Unknown, so like I don't know
Nardwuar interview.
It's it. He was on fucking College Game Day and it was just like, oh my god, my guy knows ball. I don't know.
Is SNL this weekend or next weekend? When is he hosting SNL? He's doing SNL hosting and musical guest, which Dylan. Is insane. Well, I'm holding out hope for Wonka.
Oh,
that's the choice. Like you gotta do.
Or he could do his like face tap rapper character he's done in the SNL sketches.
I really hope that he just
drip splash water splash.
Is he gonna do what was his Xbox like gamer tag?
God, he was so cool. He made modded controllers for Xbox 360. The second I saw that, I was like, I bought.
Lisa Nagaib.
I sold all my possessions and I started following him around like fish.
Yeah. You went full Stilgar.
Yeah, I'm dropping acid at the Complete Unknown premiere.
Dune Part 2 is a banger. It's
one of the best movies I've ever seen in my fucking life.
It rips at home. Like I said, all of these, like the movies, everything that I have right now, very much warrants like number 1 spot. I think these are kind of all timers.
This is Dune Part 2 is, it's another example of like, let's not overthink. I think obviously we have to have story mechanics in certain places here. This is like a piece of a puzzle. But this is like the rare case, at least for me, that I am able to go into a theater and completely sink into a spectacle.
Yeah.
Because it's perfect.
Right.
There's not a single piece of scenery out of place. It's gorgeous. It's well realized. It's well conceptualized. The technology is so cool.
Dude, Denis a fucking god.
I
don't understand how he does it.
It's visionary. It's all so good looking. Sound design is like it's on another level. Again, it feels like we're like reinventing what these movies are.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's setting a new standard. Just like at the beginning of the century, we had Peter Jackson.
I was going to say, it feels a lot like what Lord of the Rings did, where it's like, okay, we can do this at this scale. Like, good luck everyone else, because I don't think that like this is a really high watermark.
And I mean, if you look at Amazon, they're trying to redo Lord of the Rings with Rings of Power. Clearly not working.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to match the visual palette to some extent. This is the best Dune we're ever going to get. I guarantee you they're gonna try. They're already fucking trying with the HBO show, which I have not watched a single episode of. And that's got to tell you a lot if I'm not even fucking tapping in how that's working out. This is the ideal version of this story.
Yeah, and it's for all the seriousness that these movies have, because they're giving you like drama. It doesn't have the amount of fun breaks that like a Star Wars has. You know what I mean? But this gives me, I think, the feeling that has been described to me by like Star Wars heads, like when you went to the theater and watched a prequel as a kid. And I was never able to connect because like I have a harder time sinking into movies, I guess. And
it's just so undeniable. There's overwhelming.
There's no hiccup here. There's nothing to stop you from believing this world. It's all just like it's all fully realized. It's perfection.
I mean, a lot of that is that Denis is a better filmmaker than any person who's ever touched a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So like I think that's
hey,
one of the best things.
Ron Howard's name out your fucking mouth.
First Alex
Solo
Garland,
Hive Rise up.
Lord and Miller much? They were there for
like half a
quarter of pre-production.
One of the other best things about 2024 was watching through Denis' filmography in anticipation of Dune Part 2. And it's like, oh, no, he's like trying to come for the belt of just like, I actually can try and be the next Spielberg. Thank you very much.
And
but like,
the Oscars may not award me very much.
He's not.
I may not get the nomination.
The fact that Denis not even gonna get nominated for Dune Part 2 is like, what are we doing? No, actually, you know what? Backing up a step, what the fuck is Warner Brothers doing releasing this movie in March?
Well, it was pushed from last year.
Yeah, I know, but they should have just pushed it to
the full year. Yeah,
like honestly, this October was kind of a dead zone. We could have used a Dune Part 2 coming in there.
We had Venom.
I'm so sorry, I forgot about it.
He did do his last dance. Okay,
here's to the ones that we got. Here's to the ones that were here.
I'll never forget you, buddy.
Listen, Denis is like one of the fucking best filmmakers that we have right now. Talking about just the world building itself. He's the one. Tim's the one. When Zendaya is incredible.
There are so many moments in this movie when we get the moment of Timmy and Zendaya sitting on the dune and they connect. They kiss for the first time.
Easter egg for you. Also, for all you nerds out there. The what?
That is one of my favorite moments in any movie this year. When we get
shout out to the score too. This score has just been completely cast
Hans
aside.
Zimmer.
And this is I think the score is a lot better than the first one. I know there's a lot of carryover as well, but like the Chani score, the
love theme,
is so fucking beautiful. Like there's so many like things that like actually resonate and sit with me in the same way that like a Star Wars score will. And I think that the score has just been completely forgotten about. Nobody cares anymore about that.
Yeah, Wicked has to come in real hot.
It's so in every single technical respect, like it is so transporting. I think it's setting a new watermark for like what movies are capable of.
Yeah.
It's
big
not
budget
even fair.
sci-fi.
Yeah, it's just like it's unreal, and it's almost like you take for granted.
Yeah,
because we know Denny.
And much like Dune, I think the substance is also setting a new standard. I feel like when we look at the history of horror, the modern history of horror, or even the entire history of horror, and the idea of like body horror, this is an all-timer.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes,
this movie I think is taking this year, this season, this industry by storm.
Yeah.
I did not expect this movie to hit as hard as it is, to have Demi not just be in the running for a nomination, but to actually win the best
She's
actress
now like
Oscar.
a lock for a nominee and is like really coming in for
unbelievable to a movie this
so
gross, this nasty, this bloody, this disgusting. It is so, it says a lot about where we're at as a movie loving culture and where we're at just like as a larger culture and where we want to place like the acceptance of older women in Hollywood and the acceptance of this idea of taking the concepts of the preconceptions of the expectations that we put on women and flipping them on their head in such a fun way, such an exciting way.
It's in an artistic way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the time when a movie wants to make a statement, like everything is done in service of that. And you almost like lose the forest through the trees. Like, you end up focusing so much on that. Every single piece of this movie is dedicated toward rubbing your face in that fucking statement
constantly.
But it's all so artfully done. Like it's so entertaining.
Coralie Farge, what a genius.
Yeah, God, I really want her to get nominated so bad for director because it is so well earned. There's so many stylistic choices. And again, talking about production design, where this is like a movie that just sits so well on the brain that I've just like seen some I don't even know like what this font is. It's almost like it's kind of similar like a Bebes New. I don't know what the
it's
font
close.
is exactly.
Yeah,
that
remember
it is
you are
using.
one.
But it kind of becomes like substance font and like substance stylizing is a similar thing. It's
the score too to go along with it.
Yeah, the score with it. It's funny that it kind of the substance, the way that it looks itself is like brat green too, to just keep with the 2024
that
vibes.
Moment,
that was the movie that like I just rewatched like scenes from today to be like, does everything like look as beautiful in real life as it does in my brain as it's aged well? I was like, oh no, the shit just like fucking rips. And I just watched like
it's a vision
stretches of it,
perfectly realized. Like she just knew exactly what she wanted to do. Shout out to the making of that movie put out. Movie absolutely killing it.
Good job, movie.
Just showing everybody how it's done.
Listen, I said it at the time where I was just like, Mubi has run like docs before, but they have never tried to campaign like a best picture nominee.
It's also just a great fucking movie.
I will also say this movie is it's both a winner and a loser. Is Universal, because Universal had this movie. This was made as a Universal movie, and then Universal punted it. Yeah, they just sold it off to Mubi because they're like, I don't think anybody's gonna want to see this. So they took the risk, but then they also backed out.
That making of is nuts. You see Farge like put on a helmet cam to film stuff like from her point of view. She injects the substance into her own arm to get the close-up shots. Like, this is a crazy person, and we are so lucky to get her art on our screen. Yeah. Like, what a blessing. What a treat.
Well, I wish that we didn't have to watch this because that would mean that women are treated fairly.
That's fair.
So,
facts.
And you are an ally.
Dennis Quaid is so gross in this movie. Like just like the shrimp scene is just so like nasty.
It all
fucking
works
banger,
insanely
man.
well. I don't think I said on pod, but if I'm to pick anything, you do sometimes feel the Frenchness. Particularly when they're outside, you can tell they're really framing shots in a way to not show where they are.
Just a couple palm trees.
Yeah, they're like, okay, just the palm trees. And then like a lot of just like colorful walls that you're walking by.
And then an alleyway.
Yeah. So I mean, you feel constraints.
Well, all the budget is going into like the last 20 minutes.
Well, no, also because like, just don't think too much. This is again, it's like very like tonal more than it is literal.
Yeah,
a lot of this movie, like the fact that she's in a mansion. Oh, but she does have a neighbor that's across the hallway from her.
Yeah.
Like that's not.
And there's a billboard.
Real world.
Yeah, it's all
immediately.
It's all feel based, and also like we haven't even mentioned how like all of the dialogue is dumb as fuck. Like it's not an accident that it's like that, but yeah, it's
like a fairy tale.
Yeah, the movie is trying to hit you in the fucking head with its message, but it's in it's in a way that's better than I've ever seen it executed before.
I also just want to say that there's now I'm like kind of looking at it through my list, and I do think like there's kind of been a theme of on my list this year is like portrayal of sex in like a very interesting and like profound way, between like going from something like Nosferatu and like the classical sense to the substance and the idea of what we even view women as, especially like famous women. And then like kind
Anora.
of tying with the last movie on the list is Anora, who is a stripper, but also like does a little ladying of the evening. But I don't know. I was trying to verbify that.
Such
but
tact.
Yeah.
You're
Such
so comfortable
grace.
saying
Yeah.
these words.
I'm so glad that you guys put this movie at your number one, because I am very big worm pilled. The substance smacked me across the head and I had to put it up there. But Anora is kind of like the movie of the year.
That's what I'm saying. And like, it's a movie. I really, really loved this movie the first time I saw it, but I don't know. There was something about rewatching it that was like, oh no, I think that this is better than the Florida Project. I think this is the best Sean Baker's ever done. Like, I think that as much as the Florida Project like meant something to me, it meant something to all of us.
Yeah,
Like,
that movie's always going to like have the biggest effect on me.
Yeah.
Of anything he ever does, probably. But this
is like he just like leveled up like 4 different times, like getting to this point.
He made a Safdie movie.
Rewatching this, actually, before I even get into my thing, Drew, what were your thoughts? Because you didn't have a chance to
just
talk
watched
our
this.
initial discussion.
just watched. I wasn't ready for the Safdie of it all. It's not an imitation thing. It's just
he's inspired by the moment.
And also the thing, he still has the Sean Baker-ness of, and this is something that the main stylistic difference between this and like a Safdie's is they are directing you toward feeling a certain way a lot more than he does. He is cinema verite a lot of the time, Sean Baker. He is just showing you, like widescreen, just showing you a scene, letting it unfold, and you're getting all of the emotions of it. You're like, because like I would call him like a transcendent filmmaker in that any given moment, you do not know what's going to happen next. But you feel like anything could, and it could make sense. And so for a lot of this movie, all at once, you're taking in, like, you're amused, you're laughing, you're also very scared, and you're very upset.
Yeah.
You're anxious, like you're getting all of it. Whereas
it's all perfectly dialed.
Whereas
in.
the Safdies are really trying to like.
Yeah,
like,
there's a point B that you are working.
Yeah, the Safdies are pointing you at like a really specific.
They're trying to trigger.
They're amping up intensity in a really specific way. Yeah, so it still maintains such like his character, even though this is his first movie that like has a plot. You know what I mean? Like things.
Yeah, what was the plot in Red Rocket? Like,
there's nothing.
He's just trying to woo this underage girl.
Yeah, literally, he's like just like trying to ruin this girl's life.
Yeah. Well, he's also deeply horny, so that's something.
The plot in Anora is so fascinating because it's kind of two movies squashed perfectly together. Mm-hmm. You have one movie that's very much this twisted love story that's disguising itself as this fairy tale. And then you get this panic mode of a
like a 15-20 minute sequence of just insanity happening.
Where it's everything falling apart.
The party comes down. It's the morning after you're stuck in the hangover now.
Yeah, and it's just like a screwball comedy.
Yeah.
It's like a slapstick sequence.
Well, I wanted to shout out Baker, much like Farge, is so hands-on to the point where he's actually editing the film. Mm-hmm. So both The Substance and Anora have this in common, where the director is also the editor. And I think that says a lot about the extent to which their vision is being realized in the final product. Obviously, Dune is this massive, massive project that involves a vast array of teams and collaboration.
You're saying Denis couldn't edit his own movies? Is that what you're trying to say?
I haven't looked at his full filmography to see if he's even tried.
I don't think he has. But
at least I know that Baker has done this for the most part in all of his movies. And to have him scale up and level up to the extent that he has in Anora and continue to try to do this where he's actually the one cutting the film together is so fascinating to me, because the fact that you have these two very stylistically different halves and they don't feel like they're different movies. They feel like it's all one single, perfectly cohesive story is because he's the one doing it.
Right. And that's like where the master thing comes in, where any given moment you're like, whatever happens here.
Yeah.
Like, I have no fucking clue.
I give myself over to
exactly. you totally surrender yourself. And like the way he shoots, it's like he's surrendering himself to the scene in a way. Like he has things very well planned out, but he's letting the actors cook. And that's a really interesting dichotomy to me, because he's probably the best, example I can think of, at least, of getting the best performance possible out of everyone involved.
Have we said Mikey Madison yet?
Oh yeah, but also, especially considering across his filmography, like 80% of the people are not actors.
Yes,
and he is the best. He has not had a bad performance in any of his movies. Right. That's not normal, man. Like, that's otherworldly, like filmmakers' superpower shit. Like, that's something that separates him from anyone in the world right now.
Yeah. It's a special ability. Yeah.
Well, I know he's also deeply involved in the casting process too. And you can see, like, he just very much
every touch point.
Sean Baker's never going to make a fucking Marvel movie, because he is always just going to keep this idea of like, I want to keep things like small enough that like I can be the hand that is controlling.
He's taking some calls for X-Men. Hold on. I did see an AI post about that.
The Brutalist 2 double brutalizing.
Yeah. There was a fake AI image on Facebook that did tell me that Sean Baker is in talks.
That's great. I love that. No, I think that what we're talking about like kind of the Baker of it all, and like how uneasy it can feel, but in all the right ways, is what some people I've seen like some criticisms of the movie where they're like, I liked the party and I wanted it to stay a party forever. And it's like, well, Baker's always going to like, and I feel this way about all of his movies, you might not know where you're going and you might not even like it in the moment, but he is making the best decision possible for the betterment of the story overall. Like, we do get all these different layers that are in this movie where it is so much fun. It is fucking hilarious. This is the funniest movie of the year. It is like laugh out loud, especially the screwball comedy. But everything that is happening with these henchmen is so goddamn funny.
It's so exhilarating.
The last act is really tragic. It is this moment of like, you are realizing the same time that Annie is realizing exactly what is going on and what her worth is in this story. And the framing of this, and spoilers for Anora, which I think is a masterpiece, and everyone
want to talk about the ending?
Should go see. Rewatching this movie, just a couple big like directorial things like stood out to me. One of them was all of these smart choices just foreshadowing where the story is going. Like on their wedding day, they go outside and they're in Vegas and there's fireworks going off, but they're not real fireworks. They're literally fucking LED projectors above them. They're projecting fireworks. Like, it's all a fucking fake facade.
Artifice.
They are in they're in Vegas, which is just kind of known for having this giant artifice. But Vegas, like, very much is not just the Strip. Vegas has this whole other underside to it. But of course, we don't care about that. We're just in the party right now. Yeah. It's never going to come down. We're going to be young forever.
Shout out to fake Timothy Chalamet as well.
Mm-hmm. Man, our guy, what's his name? He's going to be in a Mark Eidelstein.
He's also it's another, like, it's almost like Sean Baker testing himself, because one of his biggest calling cards, he portrays like low status characters. Yeah. Like, just like
bottom feeders.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, just people who don't have access, are not well educated. Because it's a crutch if you're a screenwriter. If you have a character that is, like higher status, they're more articulate and they're able to like express the way they're feeling better through just words. That's another reason he gets great performances. Yeah. Is because he has to rely on like just people being good at acting. Everyone in this movie is like bad at talking.
Yeah.
Like
Well, there's
Anora,
like a real genuinity to it.
yeah, like Anora is really good at it. Like she's good at like that's how she tries to sort of command people. But she, you know, she's not like gifted with some master's degree vocabulary to do it. The most extreme example he's ever had is this fake Timothy who barely knows English.
And we love him.
And his performance is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's so fun.
As like a little fucking shithead.
There's such a he is such a shit, but then also like
he's a gamer, bro.
It's the magic trick that this movie does is that you kind of buy in eventually. Like you do like kind of buy his charm, and you kind of buy even for like it's just half a second that like maybe he doesn't like fucking love Annie, but like maybe he does like love this lifestyle enough that like he is willing to do it all.
Yeah, that's like, what I buy. There's a good chunk where you're like, I believe that he would want to leave his shitty fucking Russian life.
But also like one of the flips that this movie does is that she's hustling him through the first part of this
absolutely.
movie. She is in it.
She's trying to get paid.
Like, yeah, she's just like, all right, it's gonna holiday pay. Don't forget about holiday pay and like all this kind of thing. Like she is doing it all.
She's working. Realize, like, she's on the clock this whole movie.
At the end of the day, like you were always employed. Like you, at the end of he was always the one, the pockets, and the pockets are always going to decide.
I think that the genius of this movie, and if you don't want to know how this movie ends, just skip forward. We'll put the time codes in so you can listen to honorable mentions. But just to talk about the ending of the movie, the genius part is that we get this last chunk of the movie that focuses on the Yura Borisov character. He plays Igor, and he's seated throughout the movie so expertly. Baker like
literally framed together.
He lingers on him in a way that feels so strange because your gut feeling is just like he's just the side guy.
But you quickly get
the goon.
Yeah, you quickly get a sense that he's different from the others. He also, again, speaking toward like tying a hand behind your back, he has a super limited vocabulary. Like he is so quiet. He doesn't talk much. And yet this is why I buy like the Oscar campaign for him, because you see him fall for her in the background of all these scenes.
It's an incredible performance.
You're just watching. Yeah. You're watching his eyes every time he's on screen. He's so captivating.
It's so cool. And it's such an incredible job by him, because at first, whenever you see him, there's very easily a way that this could have gone wrong. And there's something like the first time you see him,
could fall apart if it doesn't.
Well, not only just that, because you are so like on the hook with wherever Baker's going, it's like, could this be like a dangerous person? Like, does he like really like her or something like that?
Yeah.
And
is
like
he gonna fucking kill her? Yeah.
Is he gonna like rape this woman or kill her or something like that? You don't know. And it's kind of only through the story that you're like, oh, they're two people that are exactly the same as each other.
They're on the clock.
They are both on the clock. They are both just like
they're
fucking
working.
bottom feeders. They're both just that lower tier who happen to latch on
to
this wealthy family, get a taste of that life. But they're at two different points in their life. Like you can see it in his eyes, not just that like he's falling for her, but that he's feeling for her. Like that's kind of, especially on a rewatch,
he cares.
The impression that
there's a kindness to his character.
Yeah, like he turned 30 and she's 24 or something like that. I bet that 24-year-old Yuri, what's his name, Igor, 24-year-old Igor probably did have bigger aspirations of like, I can get into this family, I can rise my way up, and I can like I could be the Tauros, or I could be Tauros's boss one day and like get up in there. And he's been burned over and over and over again.
Absolutely blew me away. I
didn't want to love it as much as I did, but man, he's a scene stealer.
I was so enamored with him, and how euphoric the first half is without him is such a necessary flip side, because the key part is Mikey Madison, is Anora. Like she kind of brings these two halves of the movie together where you're riding hard with her. as she's riding hard with Mr. Russian
Vanya.
Timmy.
Yeah.
And then once he disappears, he literally runs away from the movie.
Yeah, it's again, like you just don't know what's gonna happen. Like,
It's amazing.
One of our main characters and like plot drivers just straight up walks off.
Right. And like the funny, charming aspects of the first half give way to like this thrilling and devastating second half that feels like it gels perfectly together, and that feels impossible. Like for you to tell me that you have a first half of the movie that feels like this funny, charming, exhilarating, euphoric,
sexy
party, and that you have this heartfelt, charming, devastating second half, it feels like it shouldn't work, but the fact that it does, I think, is because of her performance, because she is able to navigate the tones of this film so perfectly. It's such an incredible performance. I would give it the performance of the year if it wasn't for Demi Moore, because I love that movie so much.
I'm giving it.
I was floored by this.
I know. I'm giving it to Mikey because she has to do it. Like if you were to go like line by line, just record the amount of time talking in this movie, it's just like all her
and navigating so many
it's like it's her, and then like behind her is Toros, who by the way we can't take for granted. Karen
who apparently has been in every Sean
he's been in every one. This is a juicy role. Like he talks like
I love him. He's like he's so concerned about his like ability to survive this situation.
Starting at the bar mitzvah, like the introduction to him. And again, Baker's so good at doing this thing where we were talking about before, like some of the horror movies where you're like, people are like, I don't know if it's okay to laugh. Baker is so good at being like, no, this is funny, guys. Like we're all like, his introduction to him is that he's at a bar mitzvah. He's like holding a baby and like checking his phone. He's like, I got just take the fucking baby.
Yeah,
it's like bails.
It's so like it feels like I think you should leave. Like he looks like Barley on his phone, you know. And he's like, what the hell?
This fucking guy. I'm so curious about what you guys thought about the ending, because that's been something that I've thought so much about, and watching this movie in a theater, it really just kind of knocked me on my ass, because you are not ready for the last scene of this movie. And when it ends in a movie theater, I saw it at the NZN. It wasn't sold out, but it was pretty full. You could hear a fucking pin drop. When
there was no applause after the
everyone was sitting in their feet.
Yeah, it's what I mean. It elevates the movie. Like it's an ending that makes it better. And it's funny because he had been, criticized for his endings before. Like I know the Florida Project's ending is very controversial. I like it.
I really love that, but
this kind of swims in a little bit of a similar pool, a little bit to that. The idea of like inverting your perception of this reality, everything you've seen up until this point. I think
unlike the Florida Project, though, I at least read the Florida Project's ending as a fantasy in some ways. Like that is not even down to like
that's not what this is.
The filmic style is. This is very, very real. And it's making you sit in it. Like that. This is someone who their whole life, or at least like for as long as they can remember doing this, like the only way that they can show like transactional, like that they can show like you gave me something of value. I can only repay this with my body. Like, and the point that they have that moment, and it's all like set up in the first part of the movie by Vanya just being like, fuck, like just like that, like just moving so fast. Pound. All Igor did was just like want to look at her in the eyes.
You are a person. Like you matter.
Like we're gonna like look at each other and actually have like a human connection. And the fact that is just what like breaks her. That she's just like,
I don't know how to do this.
I don't know what I'm doing. Like I just for this whole time, like my whole life, sex has just been like my transactional, my money that I use to get me.
Well, and also she has been throughout the movie, even though she is like has vulnerability to her as a character, like how she's feeling, when she's upset or whatever. She's been putting on like a machismo. She's been,
it's part of the act.
Exactly.
She's a stripper. She's a performer.
And she's been absolutely fucked this whole movie. She is getting screwed over like by
she's
everybody.
Keeping strong the whole time.
I know, and she's making like good choices and bad choices throughout. You know what I mean?
Surviving.
But that moment to me, I think I don't know, the read that some people get of like, oh, so she needs to be comforted by a man. No, that's not what it's about at all.
No, that's
it's just a matter of like, this is someone who just been through like something unbelievably horrible, and she just like needs to be comforted. Like, she needs to like break down and just like actually acknowledge her feelings for a second. It's really, really affecting. I think it's perfect because it also is not, I don't think it's necessarily pointing towards like some great future between these two.
No,
they're both like
the opposite. Actually, she's trapped. I think that's what I was getting from it. This realization that
she's like,
she thought she was going to level up.
You're back in the hamster wheel,
and you're not even close.
Exactly. And so, I mean, the ring is great and all. Like we were Googling in the chat, Googling 4-carat rings. We're looking at least 50K there. That's awesome. But yeah, ultimately, like, she was thinking she had got her hands on something way bigger than that. And she did like this guy. Right. I don't think it was all a facade. Yeah. I think she really did have some feelings for him, even if she knew he was a fucking idiot. Like that's what's beautiful about the character is she's bold and she knows what she wants, but she also throughout the movie is making very questionable choices because she is not equipped with like the tools to make the right ones. Like it drove.
She's on a grind.
Well, I was fucking screaming when, because like her perception of the situation when she meets Vanya's mom, she still thinks that she has like a shot to like win her over, and it's like no, you fucking don't.
The court scene is so fucking funny.
That's so good.
It's one of the best scenes of any movie this year. I was dying, dude. Like
everything.
Boy is flopping around, just drunk out of his fucking mind.
Also, got shot with all the goons. Garnick, the other one who just like fully like concussed and like needs to go.
And he's on a bunch of like perks too.
He's just like throwing up on himself in the car.
He's so lit.
That whole sequence, everything about that is expertly done. But I think that like that point, it's only like when the next morning comes that we as an audience are fully like, and we are reunited to Vanya, that we are ahead of Annie. For the most part, we're kind of in the same spot as she is, where she's just like, still like, trying to just find this guy, don't really know what's going to happen. But by the time we get to the next day, it's like, oh, we know what's going to happen here, but you're still
it's not going to work out.
You're still holding on to the past. Yeah. Like you haven't moved on yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anora is Hunter and Drew's number 1. It is my number 3. The Substance is all of our number 2. And Dune is my number 1 and you guys is number 3.
Can you imagine if Anora wins Best Picture? That'd be the cool.
It could still happen.
It could still. If Anora won Best Picture,
it's looking less and less likely.
I know. I'm just saying that would be like literally one of the coolest, most inspired choices that the Academy has ever made. So.
All right. Speaking of
voters, I know you just listened to the last 8 hours.
I know.
And
speaking of how these academies like movies that they think like explain America, this is like an actual American movie.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
through and through.
He's got a crazy sense of place. He's got a crazy sense of like modernity. Like
how about just class in general and just our dynamics?
It's just class. It's as current as it gets. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions time. Like I said, my 11 through 20 switched around a lot. Mm-hmm. So in no real order, I have Hitman, the Glenn Powell, Richard Linklater film. Really, really love that movie. A Complete Unknown, Timmy season is here.
It's good.
Rebel Ridge on Netflix. Really enjoyed it. Really great thriller. Conclave. What if we had to elect a pope?
Conclave is a good movie, man. It's a really well done movie. Didi. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Diddy. Jesus Christ.
So Diddy's a different movie. Didi rocks.
You mentioned that one. The Order. Evil Does Not Exist. The Bike Riders. Kneecap.
Okay, so we got to talk just real quick.
Yeah, what the hell, Hunter? Where's fucking Kneecap?
Kneecap is like one of the coolest movies, and I think is 3rd on my best edited movies of the year. Movie rocks. It also gets my nom for best songs of the year. Banger, great. Irish Pride, speaking Gaelic.
They should have put a Kneecap song in The Wild Robot.
Very good. And like they're like instead of playing whatever shitty song we got, it's like I'm an H double O-D low lights. Come on, what they say about me.
That's great. Let me go really quick because I have less than you guys. so I want to be the first to say the ones that I say.
Okay.
I think Twisters is a good movie.
Twisters is a good
It's a great movie.
It is.
Glenn Powell's season.
We're here.
Yeah, it's sort of been lost like much of Glenn's year. I think Wicked's a good movie.
Wicked is a good movie.
I think, yeah, it's going to be irreparably damaged reputation wise by the amount of acclaim it's getting. Like it's going to make it eternally uncool to like Wicked.
I do think that it's starting to not feel like it's going to win Best Picture, which I think is good for it in the long run. I think that if Wicked, especially because it's only a part one, won Best Picture, I think that would actually be bad for its legacy. It's good. It's a very, very well made movie, and Ariana Grande is incredible.
Exactly,
legitimately
great
incredible.
Performances. I enjoyed the world. People are so hung up on like the washed out thing. I think it looks better than so many fucking shitty ass big budget movies that come out.
I have issues with the CGI, but I think the production design is immaculate.
Yeah,
like
man,
I love the world that they
great.
built in there. The CGI is pretty shaky.
Totally. But yeah, I love the sets. I love the costumes. It all works. I don't like musicals. And I think that Wicked itself, like almost all popular Broadway musicals, is a really weird story that's like hard to tell. So congrats. I think they did a good job. Inside Out 2, despite all the shit I talked about it, I still enjoyed watching. It drives me crazy. They didn't I don't know. They just didn't pack nearly enough creativity into that movie.
I was pretty disappointed. It's grown in my estimation since I left it, but I left the theater pretty disappointed by it, just based on how much I loved the first.
They also they failed to execute like the central metaphor of this one, because like the memory balls thing of the last one and like turning them blue, all that, unbelievably good device.
Yeah.
The sense of self thing, they don't like drive it home.
Yeah.
It doesn't fully like
it's kind of convoluted.
Well, because like it's, here's the problem. In the beginning, her sense of self, which is like apparently doing okay for her, says it exudes the noise, I'm a good person. Then like she falls apart and breaks because obviously that was like not enough, but like that doesn't make any sense. Well,
no, it's a more convoluted. The thing is that memory balls is a very, very easily communicated idea of like, this is what it is. And yeah, they're remaking the first Inside Out movie. Like it's the same thing. I will give a shout out to Maya Hawke as Anxiety.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason. I mean, specifically her performance in that character is why this movie is made over $1.5 billion, is because that is such a relatable thing.
She's the best.
Everyone. It also was on my ballot for the best hybrid performances of the year, because I think that she does a great job.
I think that was my number one.
I think
that category.
She's awesome. Also, the character design of all the new characters is better than the design of the original characters. They all look better.
Ennui,
Ennui?
Ennui.
Jesus.
I really like it. I just think last note on that was that
Embarrassment was the other one.
Io's character is completely unnecessary and superfluous. Doesn't need to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And I love Io.
What is that character again?
Exactly. But yeah, so this I don't have a full thought here, ironically, but like the sense of self thing. If I'm a good person is not good enough to be her sense of self, then like she should be like suffering because of that for it to make any sense. Like, but the problem is the only way for that to be shown is like for Riley to be cocky in real life and think she's too good of a person.
Well, there's also like a core problem at the end of this movie, which is that like she does the bad thing. She like breaks in and like sees her name on the list or whatever, or sees that it's not there. And then there's just like no repercussions for it whatsoever. It's just like, you still made the team, kid. Like, good job by you. And that's like a thing where I'm like, what the fuck is
none of it? It just doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. I do think that the anxiety stuff though is good, especially because it is such a.
They just didn't drive it home.
Whatever.
Hitman, I want it to be better. I still think it has.
I loved Hitman.
I mean, it obviously.
You loved it the most.
It has one.
I like it.
It has one like phenomenal scene, like transcendent scene.
I just think it's fun. I think we need to reward movies that just like. They just try to hit like a double, like they're not, it's not every movie has to be the brutalist,
He is, Glenn is too cool for the character to make any sense. He's too cool. He's too cool.
No, that's facts.
I didn't really mind the new Planet of the Apes movie.
It's a solid movie.
Yeah. Like I didn't mind it. I didn't love it. I don't have it on my good movies list, but it's the first one off. Carry On.
Carry On's a good movie. I forgot about Carry On.
I don't have much at all to say about Carry On. It's a JGL movie from 2011. Megalopolis, of course. I didn't watch many movies.
Okay.
Atrocious. I'm going out on a limb here. I think Trap was fucking awful.
So
I think it was one of the worst movies I've seen in years.
That's a great transition because I have a section of my list called movies that were bad, but
can we save this for the WBAMs?
Yeah,
we have to end this podcast.
I will say Trap is on there. Horizon and American Saga Part 1. I saw it at a matinee. I was the youngest person by 35 years. I had a good time with that. Actually, good movies that I enjoyed a lot this year. All We Imagine Is Light. Very good movie. Flow. Really cool movie. It's basically like it's animated. It was all made in a
like one guy did it on his computer.
Yeah.
That was my vote for the best animated movie of the year.
Really cool. There's like no dialogue. It's just a cat existing in like a world like when a big flood is happening. The Remarkable Life of Ibelin. It's on Netflix.
Yeah,
right
the
now.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, guy. Honestly, that was my pick for documentary of the year. I had not seen No Other Land, but I thought that was really remarkably well done.
Really intense story of just like a one man's impact on the world from his computer chair.
Yeah, it's just like how you can have impact on all these people that you've never actually met in real life. I thought it was cool.
A disabled man who lives a life in a World of Warcraft game.
2 movies. One of them that I think both of them are kind of dead from awards campaign. One of them is September 5.
Haven't seen it.
Shout out to our boy John Magaro.
Looks like it's making a final push.
Ernie, as someone who's like really into reporting, I think you'll take a lot.
Yeah. Also really into the Wolfman. John Magaro is the Wolfman.
John Magaro is the Wolfman.
Oh, wait, no. I'm thinking, hold on a second.
John Magaro is our boy from...
Do you even know? You don't even know who the Wolfman is? You just did a whole podcast about it?
I just...
Doesn't even know the fucking Wolf.
The Wolfman is Christopher Abbott, who looks like John Magaro.
Okay.
Do a side by side.
Fuck.
The Apprentice, which is a very tough movie to watch, but I do think that at least at the bare minimum, the 2 central performances are very, very good. Fall Guy. Fall Guy's a good movie, man. It's just it's our boy Gossman just doing his goss shit. And like, it's like a showcase of movie stardom, and love to see that.
I was too scared it was going to feel like Bullet Train.
No, it's actually like, I think it is a very fun movie.
You can tell it's directed by the same guy a little bit.
I mean, he's not the best director, but I think it's so much more fun, like because of Gosling. Gosling's having a great time with it. And then Late Night with the Devil.
Great movie.
Really, really fun movie. It has a cool style to it. It kind of got buried under some controversy, but it's a good movie.
We'll continue this in the WBAMs. We'll keep shouting out some 7 out of 10s.
The WBAMs. We're true for all your 7 out of 10s. Like Trap.
Let us know what you thought.
No. Trap is not fun. It's just
Trap
bad.
is great.
If it was made by someone you didn't like, everyone would hate it.
It sounds like you don't have a daughter who wants to go to a concert, huh?
Yeah.
If I did, I'd do exactly what he did, which is just give her a movie and just show her performing.
Oh, it sounds like you've never been to a concert at 2 p.m. that has 4 intermissions in it.
Yeah. Hey, that's
Fucking
Philly.
Idiot.
Only in Philly.
Only in Philly, guys. Well, we did it. Another year checked off the list of our best movies of 2024. Thank you all for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts. Let us know your favorite movies of the year. Like and comment. Use that Spotify comment feature if you're listening on there, or hit us up in the YouTube comments with your picks on the best of 2024. Check out WeBoughtAMic.net to get every episode in your inbox. Patreon.com/WeBoughtAMic, $5 a month. Support the show, support the boys in 2025. Get access to the Discord. Shout out to the Discord. Shout out to Harry and Javi and Vihan and everyone who joined us during our live stream. You can get live stream access if you're in the Discord. Next week, it's best TV shows of 2024 with a very special guest. We're continuing the tradition we started last year with, can we say it? The Yellow King, Dane, is coming on for best TV shows of the year. So stick around for that. And then the WBAMs as we close off our look back on the year. So thank you all. And as always, please remember
Welcome
Oh.
to America.
Welcome to Marwin. Form. I've got guns in my head and they won't go. Spirits in my head and they won't go.
Lisan.
Al-Qaib.
Goodbye.
Bye.